Chapter 1391. The reporter didn't expect Almighty Xian to be so easy to talk to. He was afraid that he would offend Almighty Xian if he asked too directly, so he could only change his method. It's like this: Almighty Xian probably hasn't seen Almighty Qin's interview. Almighty Qin said that you have been waiting for Almighty Hoshino for a long time. Cough, do you think he is right? Yu Cixin didn't have any reaction. Hoshino arched a brow. What did he mean? The reporter saw that Yu Cixin wasn't replying and wanted to cough again. Unexpectedly, Yu Cixin raised his hand and placed his arm on Hoshino's shoulder. He lifted the corners of his lips. Do you think he is right? The reporters were all stunned at that moment. He even forgot to press the camera button. When he came back to his senses, Yu Cixin had already taken a step forward. Almighty Hoshino was in the crowd too. But his voice could be heard. You did that on purpose, right? Isn't it good to verify Qin Mo's words? Heh, it's probably because you're too threatening. Hoshino, haven't you realized something? You and Z are too intimate. Yu Cixin was nonchalant. As a boyfriend, he shouldn't be happy to see such intimacy. Hoshino laughed lightly. As Z's boyfriend, shouldn't he be prepared for this? Z has always been likable. Yu Cixin, what's the meaning of that flaunting expression? He didn't want to shop anymore. Seriously, there wasn't much to shop. Yu Cixin narrowed his eyes. His slender figure was about to leave. If Hoshino hadn't pulled him back. Go over there and take a look. What are you looking at? Yu Cixin's young master's actions were devilishly handsome. Hoshino's voice was as gentle as usual. Don't you need to raise the little thing you brought back? I really don't understand whether you are the master or me. We don't have enough cat food. There's a shop over there, we can buy some. Yu Cixin didn't say much. After walking a few steps, he said faintly, you are more attentive to a cat than to me. Tobacco Bag Slanted Street was especially crowded at this time. There were sounds everywhere. In addition, they had to avoid the reporters and fans who might recognize them. Hence, Hoshino didn't hear what Yu Cixin said. She tilted her head. Her face was still covered by a mask, revealing only a pair of ink-like eyes. What did you just say? Nothing. Yu Cixin stuffed his hands into his coat pocket, acting like a rich young master. Where's the shop you mentioned? Hoshino walked forward. Why would someone who doesn't even know the cat food store bring a cat home? I met it when I was cleaning up the people. It was raining. I can't possibly get rid of the cat too. Yu Cixin said this casually. Hoshino could almost imagine the scene at that time. It was definitely a group of black-clothed men. He stood at the very front, looking so lazy that he didn't seem like he was here to capture anyone, but he was more sinister than anyone else. Of course, he didn't have to clear the place. But the actions of the fifth-generation head had never been difficult to understand. That was why he was able to subdue his subordinates and make them obedient. He must have seen a cat on the side of the road on a rainy day after cleaning up, so he opened his leather jacket with a cigarette in his mouth and carried the cat back into his arms. This person had no affinity with animals. He had seen him with a cat print on his chin. It was probably because his face was too ostentatious, so ostentatious that even the cat couldn't stand it. In addition, when he came back, he just threw the cat away. He was even more arrogant than the cat. In high school, this person could defeat a group of people alone. They would meet on the rooftop of the school and within a day, he would become the boss. He had been like this ever since he was young. He hated it when people said that he was beautiful. If anyone dared to talk about his looks, that person would be at the end of his life. Hoshino smiled. He pushed the door open and walked into the pet shop. Other than cat food, there was nothing else he wanted to buy. But the interview that the reporter mentioned. It seemed like he should take a look. Yu Cixin really felt aggrieved as the owner of the house. He switched off his phone. Qin Mo had better keep an eye on Z. But even if he didn't, there was nothing he could do. In China, Z couldn't do anything wrong. You see, Sheen was most worried that Sheen Mo didn't have enough control over his side and Z would return to the Fifth Avenue. If that was the case, Hoshino would follow her. The young lord of the hackers. Honestly speaking, he was interested in the past. But now, he didn't have a good impression of her. Hoshino didn't know what he was thinking. He took a bag of cat food and passed it to Yusishin. How does it taste? Yusishin took it and placed a piece in his mouth. His expression was as arrogant as ever. Not bad. The people in the pet shop were all shocked. Such a handsome person just put cat food in his mouth? Hoshino paused and pinched his face. Spit it out. Spit what out? You're not the one asking me about the taste. It was obvious that Yusishin had forgotten where they were. Hoshino smiled helplessly. There was a smile in his voice. Hey, I asked you to smell it, not eat it. That's cat food. Yusishin, not wanting to talk, was probably the portrayal of Yusishin, the big boss, today. Hoshino knew that he couldn't understand some Chinese. After picking a bag, he turned and asked, "Do you want another bag?" Yusishin scoffed. "One bag isn't enough for that stupid cat. I'm not buying it for it." Hoshino took out his wallet. His fingers were slender. "The extra bag is for you." Yusishin narrowed his eyes. "Do you want to fight?" "Sure." Hoshino took the bag. "Let's go back." The reporter who was eavesdropping outside rubbed his nose. It seemed like gay love was a lie. The internal situation in Japan wasn't peaceful. It was obvious between the vice captain and the captain. The vice captain didn't listen to the captain. But how should he write the topic? It was really difficult for this iron-willed newbie. No matter what, he had to post the photo online. Although Exionda put his hand on Hoshino's shoulder, he felt that he was joking. Buying cat food was more realistic. At least there was a conflict between the two of them. MMH. Right. That's right. Create a conflict. The newbie reporter felt that his idea was good. After all, there was a topic with a conflict. This was an unknown rule on the internet. Someone would definitely pay attention to it. After all, the vice captain was going to fight the captain one-on-one. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was a good idea. After posting the photo, the newbie reporter decided to give the two of them some space and didn't continue to follow up. After about 3 minutes, he went on Weibo to take a look. The scene he imagined didn't happen at all. Instead, a bunch of people were saying, "Ah ah ah. Let's go buy cat food together. It's so loving. I'm definitely on the Hoshino CP." Chapter 1392. The public display of affection had been going around the internet the entire day. She had assumed it was over. But the more Bojio looked at the household register that the Almighty had given her, the more she felt there was something in it. She took some time to put on her uniform before heading downstairs. After the interview, the crowd had dispersed. Supreme Alliance's official fans had a sense of order. They were more enthusiastic than anyone else when they visited. But they also understood that it wasn't good to stay here. Hence, after the event ended, the fans packed up their banners and went back to edit. Almighty Chin's words and actions were enough for a year's worth of love videos. Unbeknownst to them, in the evening not long after they left, a youngster walked down. A young man walked down. Although he was wearing a hat and a mask, his eyes were very special. She opened the Lamborghini's door and locked it. Activate voice recognition. Voice recognition activated. After the intelligent system connected to the internet, it saw its master's face in the rear mirror. The car shuddered inexplicably, an indescribable sense of familiarity. As expected, Bojio unbuttoned her jacket and arched a brow. "I'm here to analyze something." "Master, if it's about your boyfriend, you don't have to look for me." Little Blackie's voice was calm, but after the system's analysis, its master was here to flaunt her affection again. Why was Master still harassing it even after leaving the army? Didn't she have a bunch of fans online? Go and look for them. As a single car, it was under a lot of pressure. Bojo tilted her body, a mischievous smile on her face. It's up to me, not you. Little Blackie, have I been treating you too well recently, MMH? Do you have to make me listen? Can I play a song for you? Master, you humans are so noble. When I found this song that day, I felt like it was written about me. Little Blackie sang the lyrics. I'll be waiting downstairs in 3 minutes. If your boyfriend isn't obedient, I'll chase him out. If you're lonely, I'll talk to you, Bojo laughed. Enough, you're an intelligent system. Why are you learning a love song? Master, you've changed. You weren't like this in the past. You used to love me so much. Little Blackie changed his tone. Bojo smirked. Next time, don't watch idol dramas online. Be more normal. Take a look at this. As soon as Xiao Hei scanned it, 3 words appeared in the data system: household register. The Demon King's household register. Little Black's tone was very specific. It was very calm, but even so, it was still trying its best to express its fear. The great Demon King could have given anything, but why did he have to give this to his master? Also, what was the meaning of his master's sweet smile? MMH, Brother Mo's household register. Do you think Brother Mo is hinting at something by giving me his household register? Bojo tapped her chin with her fingers, looking suave. Little Black didn't want to speak because he knew that even if he didn't speak, his master would still be able to give him an answer. Did he want me to confirm our relationship but was too embarrassed to say it directly? That's why he gave me a household register. Bojo shook her head helplessly. Brother Mo has always been like this since he was young, shy. Little Black, it really couldn't imagine what the great devil looked like when he was shy. Chapter 1393. At this moment, Bojo couldn't hear Little Blackie's shouts. You've been overseas with me for a long time. There's something you definitely don't know. In China, people rarely send their household register, so? If cars had expressions, Blackie would definitely be speechless. You're hinting for me to propose. Bojo broke into a beautiful smile. Brother Mo, you really don't mean what you say. Little Black felt the need to stop him. Master, don't forget what Grandpa Butler said. As a girl, you have to be a lady. What does a proposal have to do with being a lady? Besides, Brother Mo has already given himself to me. If I don't express my gratitude, wouldn't I be a scumbag? I'm not a sugar daddy for nothing. Bojo glanced at Little Blackie casually. Xiao Hei. Fine, fine, fine. You're so handsome. Whatever you say is right. I'm just a driver. Why should I argue with you? It had to ask the netizens later. After the owner found a boyfriend, she didn't pamper the car anymore. What was it going to do? She hadn't been joking when she said she wanted to propose. Since they were going to propose, there had to be a sense of ceremony. Grandpa Butler was an expert in this area. Of course they had to find him. When Grandpa Butler received a call from his young master, he was trimming the orchids he had recently raised. After hearing the conversation, his eyes darkened. Young master, does young Master Chin know that you're going to propose? Of course I don't know. If I knew, what other surprise would there be? Grandpa Butler thought to himself, that shouldn't be young Master Chin's plan. No matter how I look at it, it looks like something that our young master came up with. Thinking up to this point, Grandpa Butler once again felt that there was something wrong with his education. He had to remedy it. Young master, you're still young now. You're not allowed to get married in China. That's nothing, we can get engaged first. Bojo leaned against the back of the car, her gaze bright. Grandpa Butler. When their young master became smart, there was really no way to save him. All right. Grandpa Butler took off his gloves. Get engaged first. After all, this is China. As long as they didn't get married, if young Master Qin did anything wrong to young Lord in the future, he could still bring young Lord back to the Fifth Avenue. After all, it was convenient to do anything there. Here, young Master has to redo the messaging system. Of course, although it took time, it was easy for the king of hackers. However, Grandpa Butler hadn't even thought about moving their headquarters to Huaxia. When the boss was still alive, he wanted to return to his homeland many times. However, there were still some things that were inconvenient. It's good that young Master Qin is here. It was probably because of this that the Key Case Investigation Unit no longer published such reports. What they were thinking was that since young Master Qin could restrain young Master, things wouldn't be too chaotic in the future. In reality, the restrictions were mutual. In the end, it was those two who were willing. He found a balance between black and white. This balance would not be broken in the near future. Grandpa Butler was worried about the future. This time, for the sake of the Asian Cup, young Master wanted to participate in the movie. He still had to find an internal solution. At the very least, no one would think that it was really Z. He had to make them feel that young Master was only acting, also, about the proposal. Grandpa Butler stretched out his hand, like a perfect gentleman, and pressed his forehead. Since the young Master was serious. Chapter 1394. On the other side. After the discussion, Qin Mo walked back to his office. He glanced at the empty black leather sofa and turned over. His long fingers tugged at his tie, his tone indiscernible. Where is she? His assistant cursed inwardly. Boss Qin had told him to watch over young Master Zhou. Oh no, Miss Zhou. She was here just now, the secretary, who had been delivering tea and pastries the entire afternoon, replied. She didn't dare to breathe heavily. Just as the air in the office started to turn cold, Bo Jiu pushed open the door. Bo Jiu reached out and pushed the door open. She arched a brow. Brother Mo, are you done? Qin Mo's voice was calm. He threw his tie onto the office table and walked over. He held her hand and said, do as you see fit. He brought Bo Jiu downstairs. They walked from the office to the elevator. Countless people wanted to stand up and take a look. Even though they knew that Boss Qin's girlfriend wasn't simple and had seen her on the internet, it wasn't common. But it wasn't common to see her in real life. Even though she was a member of the club under their company, it was the same. This was a portion of the staff. The other portion was a huge fan of Spade Z. When they saw her in real life, they felt like they were floating. How could Boss Qin lock such a handsome male god in his office and not let him come out? Now, they finally saw her again. The hearts of the female workers were rippling. The entire atmosphere was different from before. Especially the smell of perfume. It was much lighter. Someone had heard that Spade Z would feel uncomfortable after smelling perfume. All of them started to move. She had never dressed so innocently before. That's right, she looked innocent. Of course, other than the change in makeup. There were even bolder ones. When they saw Boss Qin holding Spade Z's hand, they mustered up their courage. Boss Qin, I'm a fan of Almighty Z, can I give her something? Qin Mo arched a brow. His thin lips seemed to be on the verge of spitting out a word. What is it? Bo Jiu opened her mouth before him. She revealed her canine teeth and smiled beautifully. When the female worker saw that smile, she clutched her small heart and raised the bag in her hand high. Gloves, it's cold now. You usually use the computer a lot, so wearing gloves won't freeze your hands. Bo Jiu watched his blushing face, her smile deepening. She reached for the bag, flipped it open, and put one on. Thank you, I like it. Seeing this, Qin Mo glanced over and said slowly, pink and white plush, don't you think it's girly? The moment Bo Jiu heard that, she knew the Almighty was jealous again. She tilted her head. I don't think so, Brother Mo. I'm a girl, there's nothing feminine about me. That's right, that's right. The female employees nodded. They wanted to be Big Spade. If she could wear this pair of gloves and a red checkered scarf, as long as she stood tall in the snow and smiled lightly, she would be able to melt people's hearts. It wasn't just because he was good-looking. He wanted to take it home and raise it. She wanted to pinch his face. Unfortunately, they didn't have the ability to do so, so they could only benefit their President Chin. Most importantly, no one dared to compete with Boss Chin. Their love rival was too strong and he was their boss. What else could they do? There was no point asking the netizens. Even if they couldn't take it home and raise it, they could still feed it. With this thought, everyone couldn't help but take action. Other than the gloves, there were also people who gave her cups, lollipops, and wrist guards. Once they started, they didn't care if their boss was around or not. You have to use this cup, drink more water in winter. The wrist guard is new, it's your favorite brand. And the lollipops, the assistant listened to the voices and glanced at Boss Chin's darkening face. He tilted his head silently. What should he do? Even if he was going to fire her, wasn't this too much? It was the new year and there were fewer talents. The company was also tight on manpower. Young Master Joe, oh no, Miss Joe, why did the sisters like her so much? Speaking of which, these people were usually very efficient, and they were also swift and decisive in doing things. If they weren't swift and decisive, they wouldn't have been able to enter this floor. Why did they all change the moment they saw Miss Joe? Their faces were filled with shyness. They looked as though they wanted to hug her and kiss her. Was this still the elite female team of the Chin group? They hadn't been like this when they saw Boss Chin during the interview. The omnipotent special assistant couldn't understand this point. Bo Jio's type was the one that attracted both men and women, regardless of age. She was the favorite of the sisters and aunties. There were so many gifts that Bo Jio couldn't carry them all with both hands. This was probably the limit of Chin Mo's patience. He tilted his head and glanced at the assistant behind him. That gaze was extremely cold. The assistant wiped his cold sweat and immediately went forward. Miss Joe is busy, please pass me the gifts and I will pass them to you. Let me remind everyone, we are working hours now. Even though he said that, he was screaming in his heart. Didn't you see Boss Chin's expression? He looked as though he had knocked something over. The assistant was there to deal with the aftermath. Chin Mo grabbed the back of her collar and entered the elevator. The others didn't let them in. After pressing the first floor, he turned his hand and pressed onto Bo Jio's shoulder, pushing her into the elevator. His other hand was placed above her head, his body leaning down. There was a smile on his face, but it didn't look like he was happy. Is the candy delicious? I'm not sure if it's considered delicious. Bo Jio smiled faintly and lifted her chin. Why don't you try it? Chin Mo looked at the pale lips that were inches away from him. There was still a trace of light. He reached out and pinched her face. You accepted someone else's gift and you still want me to kiss you. Little Bo Jio, dream on. Bo Jio, she was rejected by her boyfriend every day. Who else would date like her? But she had no choice, she liked little Princess Chin. Even if he didn't allow her to kiss him, she would still kiss him. This time, Chin Mo didn't hide. Instead, he lowered his head and used his empty right hand to grab her waist, changing the intensity of the kiss completely. He didn't give the elevator a chance to open. This building belonged to the Chin group. Moreover, it was the elevator's password. Moreover, this elevator was originally exclusive to the president. Unless there was something special, Chin Mo was the only one who had the right to use it. This kind of elevator would be available in some conglomerate companies to save time for the senior management. But now, Chin Mo seemed to have developed a new function. Chapter 1395. The temperature continued to rise. Bo Jio could only hear his suppressed breathing and her own heartbeat. His black and white eyes were still filled with confusion. She placed her hands on Chin Mo's waist and bit her lips lightly. They were slightly red, like flowers in the morning, with dew on them. The numbness hadn't subsided because when she glanced up, she seemed confused. Why did they stop? Chin Mo's gaze sank. Chin Mo's eyes sank. After taking a deep breath, he covered her with his jacket and kissed her again. But this time, it was just a kiss. After all, even at this stage, young Master Chin hadn't forgotten that the location wasn't right. Even though the elevator was well sealed, there was one thing. Chin Mo glanced up, his cold eyes glancing towards the top left corner. The threatening gaze seemed to be able to penetrate through the screen. His assistant immediately switched off the surveillance equipment. The next second, he received a call from Boss Chin. Did you see it? His assistant shook his head. No. It was just a kiss. Boss Chin, aren't you clearer than anyone else? Chin Mo smirked. In the future, don't install surveillance cameras in my elevator. Yes. His assistant truly felt that in the future, Boss Chin would often come to the company to display his affection. Bo Jio listened as Chin Mo hung up the phone. She was smart enough to notice that the Chin Group's security system had always been thorough. There would definitely be surveillance cameras in such elevators. Bo Jio wasn't embarrassed. She glanced up and thought for a moment before tilting her head. Do you want me to remove them? With that, Chin Mo buttoned her jacket. Behave yourself, MMH. Aren't you afraid of the bad influence? Bo Jio's smile was always devilish. Chin Mo chuckled. Which girlfriend would remove all the surveillance cameras in her boyfriend's company? You should hand them over to the security. Also, don't climb the ceiling, it's dirty. Bo Jio felt that the Almighty was despising her. But it didn't seem like it when he was zipping her up. He was probably afraid she would be cold outside. Bo Jio picked up the scarf she had just received. Chin Mo arched a brow. You want to wear it? It looks good with my uniform. Bo Jio gestured. Chin Mo reached out and took the scarf away. I'll buy you a better one. Bo Jio laughed lightly. Brother Mo, don't tell me you're jealous. Heh, what's there for me to be jealous of? Everyone's gifts added together are not as good as the one I gave you. Chin Mo spoke slowly. After he helped her with her collar, he took out a mask and put it on her ears. When young Master Chin did these things, he gave off a feeling of extreme abstinence. It was hard to imagine that he would take care of anyone like that. Bo Jio tried to reveal her eyes. When did you give me a present? How other people express their love. Flowers for his girlfriend. Put in a good word for your girlfriend. Everything depended on his girlfriend. The Almighty didn't have any of these. The only fun he had was digging up her dark history and having a heart-to-heart talk with her at night. Basically, the content of their conversation was about how many people she had confessed to. Chin Mo watched the slightly depressed handsome face in front of him. He arched a brow nonchalantly, his voice faint. Am I not considered a present? Bo Jio choked, coughing lightly. How could she have forgotten about that? In that case, the Almighty's present was indeed better than everyone else's combined. Idiot. Chin Mo stared at her for a long while before breaking into a light chuckle. He pulled her up and left, taking all the gifts she had received along the way. Lollipops like these, I can buy them for you if you want. Do you want sweets from someone else or from your boyfriend, MMH? Bo Jio didn't have to think, of course it was from her boyfriend. Where's the scarf? Where's the glove? Such a cute and trendy item doesn't suit you. Anyway, Bo Jio understood the Almighty's meaning. She couldn't use the gifts from others. It would be a waste to throw them away. Bo Jio didn't want to throw away the gifts from her fans. Chin Mo's voice was calm. Who asked you to throw them away? Give it to Lin Feng, he suits this style. All right. Bo Jio broke into a smile. After the competition, Lin Feng was lying in the dormitory, resting. In reality, he was sleeping. When the dormitory manager called him down to take the gifts, he was still confused. Pink and white gloves. Checkered scarf. What were these? More importantly, the dormitory manager had told him, "Your friends said that you suit this style." What did he mean by that? He was a straight man, why would he suit pink and white gloves? He couldn't throw them away. He scratched his head. When he brought them up, he couldn't help but wear the gloves. Involuntarily, Lin Feng was about to remove them. Yun-Hu pushed the door open. He swept a glance at his attire, his gaze landing on his hands. Lin Feng's face was filled with awkwardness. How was he supposed to explain the origins of the gloves to a gay? In the end, it was just a glove, not a condom. Why couldn't he explain it? It was just a little pink in color. Cough, I don't know which girl who has a crush on me gave it to me. Lin Feng had a serious expression on his face. I've already told them not to give me gifts all the time. Unfortunately, I'm too handsome, so I'm always troubled in this aspect. It's probably because the girls gave me the wrong bag and gave me their gloves. Yun-Hu listened to him quietly. Then he placed the curry chicken he bought on the table. His light-colored trench coat was half open before he smiled slowly. The gloves were given by Captain and Little Spade. They said that this style suits you. Lin Feng, did you know how awkward it was? He had lied and was exposed on the spot. F***ck. All of a sudden. Yun-Hu leaned forward, his fingers touching the gloves that he hadn't had time to remove. MMH. It does suit you. Lin Feng stilled. It was too close. Ever since the competition, he hadn't been this close. The uneasiness came again. Lin Feng tilted his head to the side and took off his gloves. Yun-Hu saw it but didn't say anything. He just hung the trench coat on his arm, returning to a safe distance. Come and eat, the cafeteria has a special meal today. Lin Feng was hungry too. Eating was good, there wasn't any uneasiness when he ate. When Yun-Hu went to wash his hands, he opened the box and took out 2 cans of beer. Boys were always like this. They were always very rough. There was no water during the meal, so he used beer as a substitute. After Lin Feng set up the food, he saw someone walking over and lowered his head to eat. Lin Feng was still a straight man when it came to eating. He took big mouthfuls, burying his head and stuffing his food. Yun-Hu first took a sip of beer, then glanced at him and frowned. You're so hungry, why didn't you order takeout? I wasn't very hungry just now. Lin Feng's cheeks puffed up when he spoke. He drank the beer and then exhaled deeply. I feel alive. Yun-Hu laughed. This was probably how liking someone was. As long as he was by your side, whatever he did, said or ate would be pleasing to the eye. Why are you looking at me? As Lin Feng spoke, he felt that something wasn't right. Yun-Hu retracted his gaze and replied nonchalantly, nothing much, the professor called for you today. F***ck. It can't be. Lin Feng bit the bamboo chopsticks. Was he that unlucky? MMH, Yun-Hu replied. I said it for you. Lin Feng made a heart gesture. Brother, what did you say? Did you find a good excuse for me and the professor believed it? I knew that with you around, I can rely on everything. I said the truth. Yun-Hu took another sip of beer slowly. He said that due to your heavy extracurricular work, you will continue to skip classes and asked him to discipline you when he has time. What? There was a loud crack. The chopsticks in Lin Feng's hand dropped. Brother, are you trying to get me killed? Yun-Hu took another pair of chopsticks and passed it to him. It's a good thing to inherit the Lin family, but there are some people you aren't suited to interact with. You don't have to manage the company, you can learn a lot from the professor. Besides, I'll be in charge of your attendance in the future. The professor has some papers, you can sort them out. Lin Feng couldn't catch his breath. Brothers. Why did everyone like to attend university? It was because of the freedom in university. What did this mean? Attendance and papers? Was he going back to his normal high school life? Moreover, the one who caused all this was his good brother. Lin Feng leaned his head against the wall. My results are really good, I don't have to go overseas. You can tell this to the professor. Yunhu watched his expression of resistance, his fingers tightening. Or do you think it's better to work at the construction site than in school? Lin Feng hesitated. That's not it. Yunhu arched a brow. Is it because of people? Who? Lin Feng didn't reply. Just then, Yunhu's phone on the table rang. The name that flashed on the screen was not unfamiliar to him. It had been this number before he left the country, and it was still the same number now. That boy. Lin Feng watched as Yunhu picked up the phone. He didn't seem to have anything to hide. What is it? Lin Feng didn't hear the voice on the other side. Because he could not stand the situation, he simply stood up and walked away under the pretext of grabbing another can of beer. His head felt heavy, and he didn't know what he was thinking. He clearly wanted to take a beer, but in the end, he took out a bag of spicy sticks. What was going on? Lin Feng looked at the things in his hands and estimated that it was about time before he walked back. Sure enough, when he sat back in his chair and picked up his chopsticks, Yunhu had already hung up. You eat first, I'm going out for a bit. Lin Feng grunted in acknowledgement. He lowered his head and stuffed another mouthful of rice into his mouth. Then, he added, I might go out later too. Take the key with you. Yunhu glanced at him. Where are we going? Lin Feng thought to himself, you're going out on a date, why do you care where I'm going? The report should have been submitted some time ago. Yunhu knew it was about the Lin Corporation and he knew who was in charge of Lin Feng. Didn't I say to stay in school? Lin Feng placed the beer in his hand down. I think it's better outside, I'll tell the professor. Yunhu tightened his grip on the phone. You think it's better outside? Heh, I'm being a busybody. Lin Feng was annoyed by the sound of the phone. No, everyone thinks differently, right? You're so smart, so you'll definitely be suitable in school. I'm different. It's not like you don't know that I've always been slow in this aspect. With a personal system to guide me, I can grow faster. Plus, the company can't wait for me that long. So, you think I can't bring you along? Yunhu tilted his head and seemed to smile. Lin Feng didn't want the atmosphere to be too tense. Firstly, the competition had just ended, and secondly, Huzi had just returned. Lin Feng glanced at Huzi's phone screen. All right. Don't you have to go out? I can handle my matters. I'm not a child anymore. Basically. This kind of excuse. It could be said to be a complete rejection. Yunhu's hand fell to the side, his eyes looking at the person standing in front of him. Sometimes, he really wanted to ask a certain someone. You can't accept a man. Or you simply can't accept me. But he couldn't ask such a question. Because once he asked, it would be equivalent to forcing everything into a corner. Since he had already told him. Chapter 1396. Lin Feng didn't wait for Yunhu to come back. He found an excuse, sent a message and went home. When Yunhu received the message, his eyes dimmed. The boy looked at it. It's him? Yunhu kept his phone, his voice calm. I've arranged everything for you. Look for Director Xiao when you get there. Don't appear here again. The boy wanted to have something with Yunhu. But he realized that the person who asked him to act was too hard to get close to. No, it wasn't just hard to get close to. He had never intended to have anything to do with any boy other than that person. After the act, the boy realized it. Hence, after receiving the money, he was well behaved. This time, it was something they had agreed on beforehand. But the boy didn't understand why this person wanted him to go out of town. Mr. Yun, can I ask when I can come back? Yunhu glanced at him. I said don't appear here again. The boy paused, feeling the impatience. In reality, Yunhu's temper wasn't good to anyone. Only Lin Feng. Most of the time, as Lin Feng had said, as the only grandson of the Yun family, he didn't care about anyone's feelings. Even if he had a good upbringing. But his nature was arrogant. That was probably what he meant. The boy didn't dare to say anything else. He knew that even though this person was a university student, with his family background, it would be easy to make him disappear from this circle. Moreover, his current boss had given him the title of VIP. After Yun-Hoo met him, he called his good friend, his voice emotionless. Murongan, what do you mean? From what you said, did you meet him? How is it? I saw you take him away previously, so I kept an eye on him. This time, I asked him to contact you directly. Brother, you're finally enlightened. Yes, Lin Feng isn't bad, but people are straight, right? With your thoughts, he definitely wouldn't be able to understand them. Moreover, I feel that even if he understood them, it's not like he'll. Before he could finish his sentence, Yun-Hoo interrupted him. Yun-Hoo interrupted him. I seem to have warned you before, don't talk about people like him in front of me. Okay, I was wrong. Murongan didn't want to anger this boss. Is it because I don't like my arrangement today? This time, Yun-Hoo laughed, but his voice was extremely cold. If you continue to arrange these messy things, you know what the consequences will be. Murongan's back stiffened, and he immediately restrained his tone. Alright, I know you're being conservative. The competition is over, so what do you plan to do next? Didn't you say you wouldn't go abroad? Yun-Hoo replied faintly, knowing that he wouldn't mess around. Stay in school. It's as simple as staying in school. Murongan had long wanted to do something with this big shot. Apart from him, probably no one else knew how powerful this big shot was. He was the top student of a university, and he had never gotten that title for nothing. When it came to international discussions, those professors would always bring him along. This was a very powerful thing. Ordinary people might not be able to feel it, but businessmen would understand. To be able to attend such events, it wasn't just a matter of money and power. It was also a matter of real ability, or even top-notch ability. In addition, Yun-Hoo already had a background, so it was easy for him to get some resources. It would be a pity if such a person didn't do something. Yun-Hoo spoke on the phone as he walked up the stairs, his tone still the same. During this period of time. Don't. Murongan's eyes suddenly turned. Haven't you always been doing that? Yun-Hoo frowned. Speak properly, what's that? Lin Corporation. Murongan grasped the most important point. Hasn't Lin Feng been running around the Lin Corporation's construction projects recently? They seem to want to cooperate with us. How about it? Are you interested? At this moment, Yun-Hoo had already opened the door to the dormitory. It was already empty. The person who was originally sitting at the table was nowhere to be seen. It was empty as though the wind could pour in. Yun-Hoo closed the door, lowering his lids to glance at the direction of the luggage. Even there was no one there. What was this person planning to do? Hey, are you listening to me, big shot? Boss. Murongan held the phone, not knowing what was going on over there. He wanted to raise his voice, but a voice came over. He didn't know if it was because it was winter, but it sounded cold. I'll accept the cooperation you mentioned just now. Murongan really didn't expect it to be so easy. Although he had expected that mentioning a certain person's name would be useful. But according to his understanding, even if Yun-Hoo was a person like this, he might not be poached over. But now, although Murongan didn't know what was going on, from a certain point of view, it was like a pie falling from the sky to him. That's great, I'll immediately go and ask the people below to loosen the conditions for them. No need. Yun-Hoo glanced at the empty luggage rack again. The conditions are the same as usual, but there's one more condition. Let Lin Feng come over personally. Don't tell him that I'm in charge. Murongan understood tacitly, all right. Don't worry, I'm doing things right. Yun-Hoo hung up the phone. He sat on the chair in the dormitory. It felt a little cold. He asked that person to wait for him. But that person took away his luggage. It was obvious that he had the intention to move out. Indeed, for people like them, they could have moved out a long time ago. They just had to apply to the professor. For third-year students, it was easier to operate this way. After all, the students of a university basically had their own set of logic when they were outside. Yunhu was the professor who refused to let him go. Otherwise, just like what Murongan had said, he would be a CEO wherever he went. Besides, who didn't know this person's face? Most importantly, he didn't want to leave. Regarding this, Murongan was also clear about it. Firstly, it was because of Supreme Alliance. Secondly, it was because he wanted to accompany someone as simply as possible. Yunhu had once said, if it wasn't for him, or if he wasn't by my side, I really don't know what kind of person I would become. When he said this, Yunhu was lying on the ground. The wine bottles at his feet were all toppled. Only he was sober. Probably only people familiar with him knew this. Yunhu wasn't a good-tempered person and he wasn't a kind person. Especially when he was young. The Yun family was worried that he was too stubborn and would become a bad person when he grew up. Indeed, Yunhu seemed calm but he could play with any kind of people. Old Master Yun had once said, if this child was raised well, he would be a political talent. If he wasn't raised well, he would become the biggest headache for the Yun family. If he hated someone, he would use the most vicious methods to deal with the other party. He was polite to people, but he never really put anyone in his heart. There was no absolute concept. Until Lin Feng appeared. At that time, Lin Feng was older than him. But because of his exquisite looks, Yunhu was especially patient with him the first time they met. Yunhu liked beautiful things, be it objects or people. But at that time, he thought he liked Lin Feng because he was beautiful. But the more he waited, the more he realized that wasn't the case. Even if his hands were dirty from playing basketball, he didn't care. Because he was disfigured from fighting, he just wanted to beat up the person who fought with him. The two of them just had to sit together and play Super Mario. When he was 5 years old, he didn't seem to know anything. How could it be calm when boys interacted? Naturally, it was a case of you kicking me once and I kicking you once. But the next day, he would still drink a glass of milk with him. He just found this person pleasing to the eye. The more he looked, the more pleasing to the eye. So pleasing that his mother said, it would be good if Lin Feng was a little girl. Look at how interesting it is when they are together, they even eat at the same time. Or when she was helping him put on gloves. Playing with Lin Feng again? You child, only Lin Feng can make up with you. Old Li has been crying for 3 days. Didn't he just break one of your game controllers? You don't want to play anymore. Lin Feng has broken so many of your controllers, but I've never seen you act like this. Old Li's boy wasn't ugly, he really looked like a doll. But he still felt that the yawning kid was the cutest. Especially the way he protected him. It was unforgettable. But now, he didn't seem to be protecting him anymore. He even wanted to move out. Yunhu sat there, unsure if he was smiling or something. The corners of his lips were pressed down and he looked lonely from afar, on the other side. Mother Lin was surprised to see Lin Feng return home. Why are you back at this hour? Why did you bring so many things? I don't have class tomorrow. Lin Feng replied vaguely. I have a project to work on. This place is close to the company so I came back first. I'll talk to the professor. Mother Lin looked at him. Son, even though I think it's fine, you still have to take care of the school. I know. Lin Feng placed his luggage. Mama Lin glanced outside again. Are you alone? Lin Feng removed his scarf. Mother Lin arched a brow. Where's who? Isn't he in the same dorm as you? The two of you are so old, could it be that you had some sort of conflict? No, Empress Dowager. Lin Feng was helpless. Don't keep thinking about the plot in your head. Why would I fight with him? Mother Lin nodded. Indeed, who has a good temper? If you fight with him, no one will play with you in the future. Lin Feng. Who exactly is your biological son? Mother Lin asked. Then tell me, since you didn't fight, why did you come back alone? If I remember correctly, who should be in school now? Chapter 1397. Mother Lin noticed that Lin Feng's condition wasn't right today. She had thought that he was really tired because he had to run to school and the company. Plus, the competition had just ended. Her son probably wanted to rest, so she didn't ask further. Lin Feng carried his luggage and threw himself onto the bed without tidying up his clothes. Before this, the Lin family had already moved out of the military courtyard. Their neighbor was no longer the Yun family. It was probably because of the gap that had always existed. That was why it was like this now. Fortunately, the competition was over. However, there was another meaning to the end of the competition. Even the interaction between the two of them was about to come to an end. In the past, they could still be connected through the competition. What could they rely on in the future? In the adult world, there had to be something. If they had met later on, perhaps the gap wouldn't have been so huge. But it was because they had grown up together. Lin Feng closed his eyes. However, it was too late to think about this. He had to maintain a suitable distance. Even if they met in the future, it would be at the club. Mother Lin glanced at the room outside the door. He fell asleep so quickly. It was probably because Lin Feng didn't have much to do. Hence, most of the time, no one would describe him as meticulous. After the competition, everyone's life was different. Shui Yao Yao was the same. She stood under the shower, wanting to wash away the scent on her body. But she realized that once something was imprinted on her, it was hard to get rid of it. Fortunately, it wasn't too late. She was basically used to it now. After living for a long time, one would get used to it. For example, she could calmly stand in front of him and put on her clothes one by one. If it was in the past, she wouldn't have dared to think about it. Her appointment with him was coming to an end. When she entered university, everything would stop. At that time, there wouldn't be so many messy things. Shui Yao Yao put on the long down jacket. She still wasn't that eye-catching. But it could be seen. Compared to before, the down jacket was a whole circle bigger. Jiang Zuo was half naked, his back leaning lazily against the headboard. His slender fingers held a cigarette. His expression couldn't be seen from this angle. But he could see her clearly. She had changed so much since he knew her. At that time, he had never even thought that she would lose weight one day. Furthermore, he had lost so much weight. Inexplicably, Jiang Zuo felt frustrated. Especially when he saw that she was still so empty after putting on the down jacket, he remembered that she only ate an apple for lunch. Was there a need for such a thing? After seeing that back view, Jiang Zuo pressed the cigarette butt into the ashtray, a faint smile in his voice. Do you intend to be like this forever? Shui Yao Yao stopped and turned around to look at him. Her eyes were filled with confusion. Thinness is beauty. Jiang Zuo was a person that others couldn't see through. It was true in the past, and it was even more so now. Shui Yao Yao's expression was indifferent. She didn't seem to be targeting him. They seemed to be like this. They couldn't quarrel. When they saw each other, they were intimate. After the intimacy, they returned to their respective homes. There would even be a scene of siblings being courteous at the dinner table the next day. Recently, even his mother had become a lot happier. The atmosphere of the Jiang family had never been better. Chapter 1398. Oh, no. Shui Yao Yao put on the hood of her down jacket. I'm leaving first, wait for half an hour before you leave. It's safe this way and Uncle Jiang won't think too much. Jiang Zuo laughed, but there was no warmth in his eyes. You're different from before. You're really thoughtful now. Shui Yaoyao didn't study the meaning of his smile. She took the things. Be careful. The Jiang family needed them to be harmonious. This way, her mother's life would be much better. In reality, she didn't want to continue like this. After all, in some people's eyes, they would always be basking in the glory of the Jiang family. Shui Yaoyao didn't deny this. But she didn't play sports. Shui Yaoyao had heard the comments of people in his circle. Play sports? She's still playing at this age, girls playing esports. Like the female casters? The last sentence was always a little flirtatious. In the entertainment empire, the Jiang family held many business gatherings. Jiang Zhua didn't know why, but he suddenly figured it out. Shui Yaoyao had always understood that Uncle Jiang marrying her mother was just nostalgia. In his heart, he still liked the woman who had a similar voice and appearance to Jiang Zhua. Jiang Zhua had a good temper and Uncle Jiang was happy all day. Even such business gatherings were mostly controlled by Jiang Zhua. The people who came seemed to know her and her mother's identity. There was no disrespect. There was no respect. Of course, there were still some gossip. The daughters he knew, her classmates, would always say a few words when they saw her. Most of them were to wake her up, not to have wishful thinking and not to think that she could do anything just because she was close. Shui Yaoyao didn't speak. If she had a choice, she wouldn't want to return to the Jiang family. Compared to these occasions, she would rather stay in Uncle Yin's internet cafe. There was cocoa, feng shang, and Uncle Yin's various instant noodles. It was a warmth that wasn't present in the Jiang family. Very few people cared about her studies. Other than Coco, who would nod her head and say, "Really, why is it so difficult? Are all the questions in the country so difficult? My head is about to explode." As a young master who grew up overseas, he wasn't used to the lessons in the country. Because of this, Coco even called his captain and asked pitifully if he could tutor him. As the student representative of a university, the captain had never been weak in science. "I only tutor my girlfriend." Almighty Qin's words completely froze Coco. Even now, Shui Yaoyao found the scene hilarious. Because it was rare that Almighty Qin didn't hang up the phone. He added, "Also, don't always call to disturb my relationship. Can't you guys solve this kind of small matter yourselves?" After Coco was hung up on, he posted on Weibo, "Captain, have you ever considered the feelings of us single dogs? Why is the question so difficult?" Many people were comforting her at the foot of the stairs. But what was even more heart-wrenching was that most of the fans were asking, "How did you show off? Tell us about it." Coco finally caught him, and he started to complain about his captain's usual behavior. Because it was Weibo. Bo Jio would come to take a look as well. Chapter 1399. He said he's only tutoring his girlfriend and told me not to disturb his relationship with such a small matter. What? From the punctuation. Bo Jio could tell how Coco was feeling. She didn't bother reading the comments. Instead, she glanced sideways at the Almighty beside her. He must have noticed her gaze. Qin Mo's hand paused at the red light. "What is it?" "Nothing." As a domineering CEO, she shouldn't expose the Almighty's intentions in front of others. After all, the Almighty could be shy. Once again, little Blackie understood his master's thoughts. He couldn't help shaking. It was puzzled. The devil had so many cars, but he didn't drive them. Why did he choose it? As a world-class smart sports car, little Blackie needed a companion to have a good chat with. Ever since it came to China, it realized a benefit. As long as it went online to complain, there would be people who would complain along with it. That was a good point. Little Blackie had already thought it through. Once they reached the destination, it would secretly log on to its own network and share its master's daily life with the netizens. Seriously, don't underestimate its account. A lot of people were already paying attention to the post it posted. Some were even asking if it had a follow-up post. Are you hungry? Chin Mo stopped the car. The reason he asked was because she was whistling restlessly again. Bo Jiao smiled. A little, I'll get some. This was a good spot. There was a Burger King next door. Bo Jiao wore a mask. She relied on her long legs and didn't take a detour. Instead, she used the stairs that were half the height of a human to climb over. Chin Mo frowned when he saw her from the car. But her actions were indeed handsome. The black coat carried the wind as it fell. The few girls who had just come out of the Burger King were staring at the youngster walking towards them. Long legs, slim waist, and silver hair with a mask. They couldn't help trying to guess her identity. Their first thought was that she was an internet celebrity. But she didn't look like one. After she entered, she took out her wallet and didn't remove her mask the entire time. Instead, she bought a bunch of things. From his voice, they couldn't tell which streamer he was. It's such a pity that such a big brother doesn't dabble in the internet. The girls still wanted to find some clues. The youngster had already bought the good stuff. With a takeaway paper bag in one hand and a cup of unsweetened coffee in the other, he walked over. They still couldn't tell who it was. She just felt that her side profile was enough to make one's imagination run wild. What would happen if he took off his mask? Bo Jiao noticed that someone was looking at her. She didn't avoid it, her eyes curved into a smile. In an instant. Then, he heard an "aw" sound behind him. Someone also took a photo and posted it on Weibo. Today, I saw a young man with silver hair and a black mask. He climbed the stairs to buy a burger. Although I didn't see his face, I felt that he was very handsome. The words "black mask" and "silver hair" quickly caught everyone's attention. After all, he had left a message with Coco. Now that he saw the key words appear, he couldn't help but smile. Many people's first reaction was, am I thinking too much? Why does this back view resemble my big spade so much? Definitely. In the game, it's normal to climb over stairs to buy a burger in real life. Ah. The more I look at him, the more he looks like my Almighty Z. Almighty Z? Who was that? The girl who posted the photo didn't play games, so she didn't know anything about esports. But that was it. Strangely, the number of shares on her Weibo suddenly increased to a frightening level. Many people were at her, asking for her coordinates. Of course, there were also sober ones. I just came back from that place. I'm so sad, I feel like I've missed my big spade. It's probably too late to go over now. Am I the only one who noticed that Big Spade was holding a cup of coffee besides the Coke? He must have bought it for Almighty Chin. He must have bought it for Almighty Chin +1. Almighty Chin always lets his girlfriend buy things while he stays in the car. Let his girlfriend take revenge for him. Let his girlfriend fly him. Facepalm, I don't want to say anything about Almighty Chin's relationship. As a senior Chin fan, I just want to say, Big Spade, you can't return it. The fans' worries didn't come true. After all, what kind of person was young Master Chin? How could he give someone the chance to return him? He asked someone to get out of the car to buy things, more or less because his phone kept ringing. And the caller wasn't anyone else, it was his mother, Movie Queenan. It wasn't just the phone. There were many WeChat messages. Why isn't your household registration book in the family? I received a call from Countrywide today, saying that they want to have a marriage alliance with our family. I asked your father, and you actually agreed. You actually agreed, Chin Mo. Let me tell you, if you dare to abandon my Jiao, you're finished, let me tell you. Movie Queenan had always been elegant, but no matter how elegant she was, when her son didn't even reply to her messages, the anger in her heart rose layer by layer. This cold boy, was he courting death? Her manager was trembling at the side, reminding her softly, there's media, there's media. How could she still care about the media at this time? She took a deep breath, her beauty in full swing. Continue to call him. The manager was also from a branch of the Chin group, what else could he say? That was Boss Chin. In the past, he didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Now, under movie Queen Anne's instructions, he had already called him no less than 3 times. Why did Boss Chin knock off normally today? As his subordinates, it was getting more and more surreal. Boss Chin might be busy. The manager maintained his smile, finding an excuse. He was afraid that calling a 4th time would disrupt his boss's date. After all, he had personally seen his boss leave with Miss Jo. His expression was indescribable. Even though he was smiling, there wasn't a hint of a smile in his eyes. Not only that, but the most important thing was that he had specifically sent a message to them to inform them. In the future, he would remove some of the red tape in the company. For example, gifts. He hoped that there wouldn't be any more. 23333, he was obviously jealous. Movie Queen Anne didn't know what had happened before, but she had to clarify what a marriage alliance was. The other party was a family with ancient royal blood. Chapter 1400. Movie Queen Anne thought about it. Just then, the phone in her hand rang. The caller ID showed that it was the cold kid from her family who never picked up her calls. Movie Queen Anne raised her own son and was very familiar with his ways. She didn't appear to be in a hurry. Instead, she prepared to ask him slowly, "What do you intend to do?" "Madam, I don't understand you." Chin Mo looked through the car window, his eyes landing on a figure not far away under the light. Just that one sentence. The elegant Movie Queen Anne adjusted her shawl. "Don't feign ignorance. Your grandfather said that someone came for a social gathering and you agreed." Chin Mo was nonchalant, calculating the time a certain someone would be back. MMH, which family's son was like this? Just an MMH? Movie Queen Anne really wanted to call her husband. Chin Mo seemed to have guessed his mother's thoughts. "Before you complain to my dad, you can ask grandfather which family is the one hosting the event." "Why didn't I ask?" "He said it was an ethnic Chinese who left China before the founding of the country. He has an ancient noble bloodline from country Y." The more Movie Queen Anne spoke, the more her imagination ran wild. "You bunch of capitalists, socializing for the sake of profits." Chin Mo knew that his mother had shifted her resentment towards his father onto him. "You didn't investigate carefully. You can ask grandfather and you will know why I agreed." Movie Queen Anne narrowed her eyes, changing the topic immediately. "Why don't we have your household register at home?" "I gave it to your little male almighty," Chin Mo said casually. Movie Queen Anne thought for a moment, going straight to the point. "What does giving the household register have to do with the socialization?" "Your little male almighty needs a hint before he acts." Chin Mo didn't deny it, revealing more information. Movie Queen Anne felt that there was a trap behind it. "Are you trying to trick Joe again?" "Madam Anne, watch your words, we are mutually in love." Chin Mo glanced out of the car window, his long fingers tapping on the steering wheel. "All right, she is coming back soon. You can ask about the socialization. Also, Ms. Anne, I don't mind if you become a fan of your little Prince Charming, but don't be too ostentatious. For example, don't show up at the gift-giving events that are organized. You know your own influence. If you show up, the attention will be too much." Movie Queen Anne was indignant. "You make it sound as though I'm troubling you. I'm helping my male idol gain popularity. In the future, the Chin Group will create a few more sales channels for anti-fans like you. You can invest your money in your little almighty," Chin Mo said casually. Movie Queen Anne tilted her head and glanced at her manager. "Your boss Chin even wants to earn money from me, his mother." "Goddess, the media, the media." Chin Guan's agent broke out in a cold sweat. He had never seen anyone with more personality than Boss Chin. Chin Mo returned to the original topic. "Don't call again, it's better not to let her know about this. I'm still waiting for her to marry your son." Movie Queen Anne, the agent didn't know what to say anymore. He just wanted to cover his face. He really didn't expect Boss Chin to be such a person. After Movie Queen Anne hung up the phone, she was extremely happy. When the corners of her lips curved up, she was incomparably beautiful. My cold little boy finally got it, so that's what happened. The agent exclaimed in surprise. He wanted to ask movie queen, wait a moment. Didn't you hear what Boss Chin said about waiting for her to marry him? To put it simply, he was going to marry her. The sole heir of the Chin group. He was chased by countless fans. The most popular, most valuable, most profitable, and most good-looking almighty Chin. He was going to marry someone. Marry someone? The agent felt that he needed some time alone. Really, in the days to come. Boss Chin was going to marry someone else. Who was going to manage the Chin group? And the business circle, the internet, the media, the agent could almost predict such news. What kind of explosive consequences it would cause. He still wanted to ask Boss Chin how he could say something like, waiting to marry, so naturally. From movie Queen Anne's words, it seemed like he had set a trap for him. Shameless, he was really shameless. As a top smart sports car, little Blackie also wanted to say the same thing. He had been listening to the entire call from the devil. No wonder he had sent his master his household register. It was a premeditated plan. His master had actually thought that the other party was shy. Little Blackie really didn't know what to say. The scariest thing was that the devil could even see through the car's thoughts. The first thing he said after hanging up was, I guess I have to erase your data. Little Blackie watched as his slender fingers started to tap on the screen. He couldn't help hugging his chubby body. With my loyalty to Master, I won't say anything if Master doesn't ask. Oh. Chin Mo arched a brow. That's really loyal. It's fine if you don't say anything. She's here. Little Blackie immediately shut up. The moment Bojo stepped into the car, she felt that the atmosphere inside was a little strange. But very quickly, she was tempted by the Almighty's next move. His fingers caressed her face, a smile on his face. The Almighty had never smiled so gently before. Are you cold? Chin Mo was really trying to warm her face. Bojo wasn't that arrogant. She removed half of her mask, revealing her handsome face. I'm not cold, my body is cold. Don't hug me. The colder you are, the more I want to hug you. Chin Mo caressed her head. With that, Bojo threw the strange atmosphere to the back of her mind. Besides, Chin Mo didn't start the car immediately. Instead, he opened a hamburger and fed her while letting her drink the cola. From time to time, he would laugh softly. When he laughed, even the moonlight outside would pale in comparison. Xiao He watched helplessly as its master fell into the path of the other party's seduction. The screen flickered twice. He had a premonition. His future days would be like this forever. Little Blackie realized it. The devil was really good at fighting for attention. He didn't just do what he wanted. Another point was that whatever its owner liked, it would come up with its own set. Otherwise, until now, his master would never have thought that he was shy. Just a moment ago, his master had leaned over to kiss him. He used a chicken wing to block his master's mouth. Then he smiled and landed on his master's forehead. Eat properly. A little vixen playing hard to get. No wonder his master, who was so smart, fell into his hands. This devil. Little Blackie hadn't finished complaining. He glanced at the rearview mirror again. That was terrifying. Chin Mo retracted his gaze when he saw that the car was obedient. He used a tissue to wipe the corner of her mouth. No matter how he looked at her, she was still the most pleasing to the eye. Bojo didn't know that she had understood the Almighty's point without doing anything. She was kissed again. She was elated. There was something else she was happy about. She had received a message when she was buying the hamburger. Grandfather Butler had sent her the message. The content was simple. Everything is ready. I'm now proposing marriage to the family. Proposing marriage? Bojo realized that she loved hearing this word. Once Grandfather Butler was done, she could start on her side. Chin Mo didn't know what she was smiling about. There was obviously a mischievous smile on her face. On the other hand, Grandfather Butler was rather formal. A tuxedo was a must and he had brought along his most sincere cooperation. Everyone knew that Old Master didn't meet people casually. The Yin family was different from the Chin family. All their business was overseas and they had been doing business for a long time. People often said that wealth didn't last 3 generations, but this had never happened in the Yin family. Now, it was movie queen and Old Master and had tried to stop her when she wanted to enter the entertainment industry. But because of that kid from the Chin family, Old Master had relented. After all, that person had said that no matter what, someone would inherit the Yin family's business. To say that this point had really been achieved. Especially his grandson, who had been outstanding since he was young. Many people wanted to get to know him. Most of them were socialites. Both domestically and overseas. But Old Master knew better than anyone else. That kid had always had someone in his heart. It was also because of that person that Old Master had never asked about his grandson's marriage. Because he knew better than anyone else how long his little grandson had waited outside the door with the amulet when he had moved back from overseas. Honestly speaking, that was the first time he had seen his grandson in such a vulnerable state. His mother had been worried that his grandson didn't want to return. In reality, it wasn't just that he didn't want to return. It was that his little friend had suddenly disappeared. That was also the first time he had heard his grandson ask such an innocent question. At that time, his grandson had been really young. No matter how young he had only reached his waist. He had raised his exquisite little face. "Grandfather, do you think she will come back?" Old Master had been in the business world for many years. With one look, he could tell that the family next door wouldn't be coming back. Everything had been moved away. It was as though she had never lived here before. The connection had been cut off so suddenly. Something must have happened. Old Master knew it clearly. But he still told his equally rational grandson a small lie. She likes you, so she will definitely come back. But I quarreled with her. The little grandson was like a little prince. He stood under the moonlight, still wearing that little suit. When he pouted, his eyes were a little red. She is so stupid, she doesn't even know how to use the blanket at night. She always likes to climb over the wall. When she plays games, she doesn't care about anything else. She doesn't even know how to roll up her sleeves when she brushes her teeth. At that moment, Old Master finally understood. The child next door. What exactly did she mean to his grandson? That grandson of his was very cold to everyone. He had never liked to talk since he was young. But he had said so much in one go. With every sentence he said, the emotions in his eyes deepened. Old Master couldn't bear to do that. But the Bo family had a special identity and many things couldn't be controlled. Originally, at the start, he had thought that the child would forget after a month. But looking at his grandson who wasn't even willing to eat, Old Master had been really anxious. It was impossible to contact the Bo family. Hence, he had brought his grandson back to the country. He wanted to leave that place with memories. It would definitely be better for his grandson. But still, there was nothing. At that time, his grandson seemed to have been completely plated. He had become normal. Perhaps it was obvious that the gap between him and his peers was getting bigger and bigger. Very few people had seen him smile again. His personality became more and more indifferent. He didn't even have a little willfulness anymore. Old Master had always felt guilty about this. If he hadn't brought his grandson overseas, this situation wouldn't have happened. Just like that, 1 year passed. 2 years passed. Old Master had thought that time was enough. When people came to befriend him, he would see if there were any cute children of the same age. That way, his grandson might get better. But very quickly, he also realized that no matter how cute the children were, his grandchildren were all the same. He didn't have those people in his eyes. Except for those 2 or 3 of his good buddies. When little girls came, he wouldn't even lift his eyes. At that time, there were tomboys who liked to climb over the wall. The girls raised in the military compound were more or less tougher than the girls outside. But his grandson was still indifferent. Maybe he thought he was indifferent. Grandpa clearly remembered what his grandson had said before he went to bed that day. "Grandpa, don't worry. She never climbs over the wall like this. I'm always worried that she'll fall off the wall, but she doesn't worry and doesn't look at anyone. You said that she likes me so much, so she'll definitely come back. I'm still waiting." Old Masterin had never thought that a boy who wasn't even 10 years old would say such a thing. He didn't sleep for the entire night. When he woke up the next day, during breakfast, he treated his grandson the way he would treat an adult. Because Old Masterin knew that he couldn't treat his grandson, who had a heaven-defying IQ and EQ, like a child. Many things are complicated. Sometimes, our wishes might not come true. You and Joe are too young. If she doesn't come back, you can't keep waiting, right? He looked up from the dining table. His little face didn't have any edges yet, but he vaguely looked like a man. "If she doesn't come back, I'll look for her. It's not a big deal. If I can't find her in a year, I'll look for her for 2 years. If I can't find her in 2 years, I'll look for her for 3 years. After a long time, I will find her. If I really can't find her, I'll stand in the most dazzling place for her to see. I taught her the Chinese characters, she can't just eat them." Old Masterin didn't say, "What if she forgot about you?" But what happened next was beyond his expectations. It wasn't that she forgot about him. It was that his grandson forgot about the person he had been looking for. Every time Old Masterin thought of this, his heart would feel terrible. He couldn't help but feel terrible. He forgot about the person he liked so much. How would his grandson feel? This thought made him unable to sleep. Now, he actually saw a certain symbol again. Chapter 1401. 3 years after the Bow family had moved away. They had met before. He was a qualified butler. He was definitely first class in terms of etiquette. The old man with foreign blood took off the gentleman's hat on his head. He was dressed in a well-ironed suit and bowed in a standard manner. "Mr. We meet again after so many years. You are still as elegant as before. Eric." Old Masterin could almost call out his name at a glance. The assistant standing at the side had never seen his chairman like this. It was obvious that Old Masterin was emotional. His hand that was holding onto the dragon-head walking stick was trembling. "You are still here. Not only am I still here, but young Lord is also here." He smiled very sincerely. One could see the feelings in it. It was as if they had met good friends. The assistant watched as the butler, who seemed to have walked out from the 19th century, walked to the chairman's side. "To be honest, Mr. I came this time to help our young lord with something." Although Grandfather Butler did not have Chinese blood, when he spoke in Mandarin, his pronunciation was very good. It was just a little exotic. When young Lord was young, she was taken care of by Mr. N's family, especially young Master Chin. Young Lord has always remembered how well he treated young Lord. Although I haven't seen it with my own eyes, ever since young Lord moved away, almost all the topics were about young Master Chin. Now that they have grown up and are together again, I wonder if Mr. N's words from back then still count. The two families are on good terms. You are the one who wants to propose? Previously, Old Master N had only received a visit letter. He didn't know who the person was. He had wanted to ignore it. But when he thought about it, how could such a thing happen? Which family would mention the N family when proposing? They had mentioned his grandson. This was something that only a bear's heart and leopard's gall would do. But what Old Master N didn't expect was that his grandson had actually agreed to it after hearing about it. Agreed? This wasn't like him at all. In the past, he had always been indifferent when someone brought up this matter. Not to mention agreeing. As smart as Old Master N was, he immediately thought of something. His grandson knew the person who had written the visit letter. Otherwise, when he had received his grandson's call and asked him to come over to explain this matter, there wouldn't have been a smile in his voice. He still remembered his grandson's reaction when he heard the news. Really? He came to propose. Then he kept laughing. He kept laughing. It was so funny that even he, the grandfather, found it interesting. "Hey, kid, are you feeling so good?" At that time, his business partner was standing next to him and looking at him. Grandpa Ann's face was both helpless and happy. It had been a long time since he had seen his grandson like this. Just like a little kid. "Yes, it's very beautiful. Grandfather, please agree for me. I'll be back soon." It was in the afternoon. It was already night time. The person who proposed marriage had arrived and revealed his true colors. However, old Master N could never have imagined that it would be an old acquaintance. At this moment, he immediately understood. No wonder his grandson was so happy. When he picked up the call, he could clearly hear the faint smile on the other end of the line. So it was her. In that case, Grandpa N seemed to have thought of something, and his eyes suddenly reddened. My grandson's memory has returned, right? Along with his childhood memories. Grandpa N had always been a person who could control his emotions, but at this moment, he seemed to be completely unable to control himself. It was an indescribable feeling. His throat was blocked, and he couldn't say a word. Grandpa N could only use a light cough to relieve himself. "It's really great." "Yes, it's great." Perhaps only those who knew what the two children had experienced would sigh like this. The old butler smiled. "Our young master values young Master Cheen too much." This time, she insisted on following young Master Cheen when he went to carry out his mission. After bringing young Master Cheen back with injuries, she even hid him at home. You know, she has always treated young Master Cheen like a treasure. I don't know what kind of agreement she made with them, but she just wants to keep young Master Cheen. When Grandpa N heard this, a myriad of thoughts ran through his mind. So it was that child who brought him back. His grandson's mission had always been confidential. Even his powerful and influential grandfather didn't know about it. But the higher the level, the more dangerous it was. He also had business friends in the Golden Triangle who told him roughly what had happened. Grandpa N couldn't sleep for many days. He was afraid that his grandson had been among the flames that had exploded in the river back then. Later, when he couldn't contact his grandson no matter what, there was news from that side. It said that Er's emotions were very unstable. With the hypnosis activated, there was a high chance that he would become an internationally wanted criminal. He was as smart as he was dangerous. When Grandpa N heard the news, his heart was filled with bitterness. He was such an outstanding grandson. How could he fall to such a state? Was there no one who could trust him? At that time, Grandpa N went to the Cheen family. Only then did he realize that it wasn't that he didn't trust him, but that there was already a substantial danger. Other than his biological parents, who dared to stay by his side. On the other hand, the soldiers he had brought out were clamoring to see their boss. But it was to no avail. Someone who could find him, protect him, and still choose to stay by his side at such a time. He heard that it was the Fu family. How did it become? Grandpa N frowned. Then the Fu family is, regarding this point. The old butler had already thought of an excuse before he came. After Master passed away, some organizations have been trying to destroy the balance in the hacker world or use hackers to do something. If young Lord disguised herself as a high school student, it would be easier for her to hide. She also knows that young Master Cheen is in this city, so she came here. Grandpa N had seen the photos of the youngster on the internet. The more he looked at them, the closer he felt. Now that he thought about it, it was no wonder that he felt so close. Since that's the case, I have no reason to disagree. Grandpa N chuckled. But, Eric, you are wrong again. Here, the word marriage proposal is used by the man to the woman, not by the woman to the man. At this moment, the two of them had already sat down. The assistant handed them tea. The old butler took it elegantly and took a sip before saying, "Mistren, I am not wrong." This was all mentioned by young lord. She said that she used all her pocket money to buy her little Princess Jean. Grandpa also agreed at that time. She can't go back on her words now. Grandpa paused. He didn't expect that after so many years, he would hear this sentence again. This made his mind immediately recall the scene when they had just arrived overseas. Words for the readers. Chapter 1402. Los Angeles, located in southwestern California, was the second largest city in the United States, often referred to as the City of Angels, The city was located in the Mediterranean climate zone, with a mild climate. Generally speaking, it was dry all year round with little rain, only slightly more rain in winter. The sun was bright all year round, and there was very little chance that the temperature would be below freezing point, so the chance of seeing snow was very rare. But on this day, it actually snowed in the city. The snow at night was especially beautiful, wrapping the trees in silver makeup. Especially the pumpkin car lights in the fence. The old European-style buildings, with warm lights and Christmas trees everywhere. There were also some people in fur coats hurrying by. They rarely had black hair, but they all had different colors of hair, white skin, and high noses. They looked like the magicians described in Harry Potter. When the scenery became a fairy tale. The people in the scenery were even more mysterious. Under the street lights. A Huaxia Hongqi car was parked outside the fence. It was rare to see this brand of car in this place. The car looked a little old-fashioned. But those who knew cars would understand. The more old-fashioned a Hongqi car was, the more valuable it was. No, it was not just valuable. It was more of a status symbol. After all, in that era, to be able to drive a Hongqi car and drive it to Losh was probably the only one who came from Ange. The car door was opened by a professional butler. The butler was still wearing high-quality white gloves. He was a young man with blonde hair. Even his words were in English. "Sir, we're here." The person in the car did not get out quickly. Instead, he turned his head and pointed out the window to the little boy beside him. "This is where we will live from now on. How about it? Do you like it?" The little boy was wearing a white down jacket with a hood. There was a circle of silver-white fur at the collar. He wore a black mask on his face. His face could not be seen clearly, only his voice could be heard. It was a little childish and a little cold. Yes. Just one word. This was obviously a little too quiet for a 4 or 5-year-old boy. But the old man in the car seemed to be used to it. He reached out and rubbed the little boy's head. "Then, shall we get out?" "Okay." The little boy followed the butler down the stairs. He did not let the butler help him with his luggage. Instead, he held the handle of the small suitcase with one hand. This was the first time the foreign butler had seen such a polite and mysterious child. He looked down and said, "Wow, this box is really cute." The little boy followed his gaze and looked over as well. The little panda's suitcase. It didn't match his overall temperament. But things like suitcases. It had never been something a little boy could control. After all, he had a very girlish mother. At this time, the old man laughed. He didn't look like a grandfather at all, except for the white hair on his temples. "There's also an Asian kid living next door. Young master, you don't have to feel bored here. I'm sure you'll be able to get along well." The foreign butler thought the boy was being reserved. But when he looked sideways and saw the boy standing under the light, he immediately felt that he was thinking too much. He had never seen a boy like this. He obviously didn't have beautiful golden hair, but he was like a little prince. Standing there, he suddenly thought of a Huaxia poem he had learned, "Young master is like jade." His hair was like fine silk, so black that it was unforgettable. Although his face was covered, his eyes were very deep, as if they could sway the sky full of snow. Not to mention his long, dense, and slightly curly eyelashes, which gave people a sense of elegance. Ah. The foreign butler sighed again. Eastern children were really too good-looking. In fact, the foreign butler didn't know. He wasn't the only one who was addicted to this beauty. There was also someone who was studying her little keyboard. On this day, someone wanted to go out and play. But after thinking about it, there was nothing fun outside. It wasn't as fun as taking things apart. After all, she had beaten up all the children nearby. It was really not easy to find someone who was willing to play with her. For this, she was punished to stand. She agreed to stand. It was too boring to stand without anything in her hands. She simply hugged her little keyboard and stood obediently while admiring the rare snow scenery outside. There was even a tiger's tail behind her. She didn't expect that there was something more beautiful than the snow in this world. Could that person be Snow White? Someone searched for the fairy tale knowledge in his mind. He looked at his face. Then he looked at the little figure outside. It was Snow White and looked better than her, like a doll. The little suitcase was also very cute. That was a panda, right? It was something that only existed in Huaxia. She heard her father talk about it. It was really cute. Even the little princess's suitcase was cuter than hers. Thinking of this, someone looked at the small square in her hand in disdain. Well, it couldn't compare at all. The little boy standing in the snow still didn't know that he was being targeted and that the other party treated him as a princess. The word princess, to explain it in depth, was to treat him as a woman. The old man was probably afraid that the little boy wouldn't be used to it, so he took a step forward and patted his shoulder. Your parents will take you back soon. Andy also said that there is an Asian child next door. He is from Grandpa's friend's house. You don't need to be shy, that child will definitely get along well with you. Okay. When the little boy lowered his head, his eyelashes fell, forming a shadow. The old man couldn't understand his grandson's emotions. After all, this child had been like this since he was young. It was too worrisome. Go in. He was a little boy after all. He still let people hold his hand. But the little boy's eyes were still dark and calm. One hand was held by his grandfather, and the other hand was pulling the suitcase. They walked into the yard where they were about to start a new life. There was a strong American style everywhere. Ordinary children might like it very much. But the little boy was as usual and didn't show any expression of surprise. Even the pumpkin lantern car and cake in the yard didn't arouse his interest. The old man thought that it would be better to wait until tomorrow. He heard that the child next door was very lively. He hoped that he could inspire his grandson. Chapter 1403. Dad. This was the first time a certain someone called him. The man who was curled up on the sofa with a comic book covering his face ignored her. A certain someone ran over, stood still and flipped open the comic book. Mr. Bo, I need to tell you something. What is it? The man yawned lazily. He didn't look like a father at all. Did you break someone's glass or bully a child to tears? Little Bojo, I've told you many times, you have to be serious. I remember that you should be standing in front of the window and reflecting on your mistakes. I was thinking about it at first. Bojo had a serious expression. But my soul was hooked. The man smirked. His handsome face and black hair gave off an unruly vibe. I don't believe you. Dad, I think we should have a good talk. Bojo's eyes widened. Her little tiger's tail was still wagging. The man held his chin nonchalantly. Thank God, you finally have the awareness to have a good talk with me. What do you want to talk about? Talk about the children you beat up ever since you moved here. They are older than me, 3 years older. They aren't children, I'm the child. Bojo caressed her cat ears. It's a little embarrassing to talk about it. The man leaned back, his long and slender legs crossed. Embarrassed? You? Baby, you don't have this word. Tell me, what do you want? Bojo thought for a moment. She ran to the side and then ran back with a piggy bank in her hands. I want to buy something. You have to tell me about such a small matter. The man stood up, his fingers touching his daughter's piggy bank. Lord Joe, there seems to be the black card I gave you in there. When did his daughter become so generous? Bojo's little face was serious. It's expensive. Although she wasn't sure how much it was worth. But it looked quite expensive. Bojo glanced at the room next door. It was a pity that the little princess hadn't come out after entering. When the man heard this, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. Perhaps it was because he was too handsome and had a kind of evil aura. Even though he was wearing a white shirt, he still gave off a beautiful impact. You can ask your mother about this. I can't decide the family's money. Don't forget, I'm a man who lives off a woman. Sometimes, little Bojo admired her father. In front of her mother, he was like a little puppy. When her mother wasn't around. In the next second, he seemed to have changed into a completely different person. Her father said that this was a little secret between the two of them and that she couldn't tell her mother. Mom earned money to support the family, and they were responsible for acting cute. Little Bojo had no objections. Anyway, her father was already an adult and could still act cute. She was a 5-year-old child, so it was not a big deal for her to wear tiger pajamas. When is Mom coming back today? When Bojo asked, she poked her face. It was a little itchy. Her father had never been good at taking care of children. When he heard his daughter's question, his handsome face was filled with resentment. 11 p.m. Let's cook ourselves. Come, Lord Joe, let's play a game. Whoever loses will have to cook instant noodles. How about that? I'm not guessing. Bojo hugged her wallet. I'm still addicted to beauty and can't extricate myself. I'm not in the mood to cook noodles. Chapter 1404. Little Bojo ignored her father. She wasn't in the mood to eat, especially when she heard that her mother wasn't coming back. In the end, the man stood up and stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window. He glanced at the building outside and saw that the lights were on. He smiled. Lord Joe, dinner is settled. Your noodles taste terrible. I don't want to eat it. Bojo wasn't interested. The man stretched out his long legs and blocked his daughter's path. I'm not cooking. Bring the fruit platter on the table. We'll be guests next door and freeload. Next door? Bojo's eyes lit up when she heard this word. She quickly placed the fruits into the box. It wasn't right to give a fruit platter as a display gift. Even though her father was still smiling and emphasizing, that's a friend of mine who came from China despite the age gap. Bojo was still angry. That was the little princess's house. How could she just freeload? Why are you walking by yourself? The man had quit smoking ever since he had his daughter. He was wearing a mask and a black down jacket. He was so young and handsome that people would think he was a big brother. Come over and carry me? Bojo held the piggy bank in one hand and the fruit platter in the other. She looked him up and down and said seriously, I want to walk by myself. I want to give the new neighbor a good impression of being sensible and obedient. Our Lord Joe has really grown up. The man smiled again and put his hand back into his pocket. He strolled behind the little tiger, giving off an indifferent feeling. The tall and short pair seemed to have walked out of a British comic. They didn't seem like people from real life. He could faintly hear the conversation between the two of them. When your mom comes back, don't tell her that we're freeloading next door. Why? Mom will be happy if she knows that someone from the same hometown is here. Why? I can't even cook instant noodles. Don't I care about my reputation? MMH? Mr. Bo, it's embarrassing enough that you're living off a woman. You think I won't beat you up just because you're young and a girl? Yes. Bojo wagged her little tiger tail. Mr. Bo looked at the mop and raised one hand. His voice was lazy and his side profile was very handsome in the snow. TSK, little girl, your skin is a little thick. It's hereditary. Bojio turned with a serious expression. I inherited it from you. Mr. Bo didn't think much of it. That's why you're doing so well. Alright, I'm going to press the doorbell. Please remember your persona. A conversation between father and daughter. He didn't expect to be overheard. The one who heard the conversation was the little boy who had brought the sled in from the side door. It was too cold outside, but he didn't wear a jacket. It was probably just a casual action. The little boy didn't like to eavesdrop. Rather than saying that he didn't like it, it would be more accurate to say that he didn't care what others said. Even so, he paused for a moment as he picked up the sled. After all, the conversation between the father and daughter was different from ordinary people. The little boy had never interacted with a father and daughter like this before, so he couldn't help but raise his eyes and glance at them. But it was only a matter of a glance. Very quickly, he closed the door. He looked at his grandfather, who wasn't far away, instructing the butler to prepare for tonight's dinner. He asked him how well he wanted the steak. The little boy was thinking about whether he should tell his grandfather that there were two people standing outside. In the next second, the doorbell rang. The doorbell rang. It was still snowing outside. Old Masterin was still wondering who would come at this time. The butler had already walked over. Sir, do you want to open the door? Old Masterin nodded. The butler walked over and pulled open the silver door handle with his slender fingers. Big snowflakes poured in along with the whistling north wind. An adult and a child appeared outside the door just like that. It was probably because the pajamas the little one was wearing were too eye-catching. Old Masterin saw a little tiger at first glance. Her pure black eyes were filled with intelligence as she looked inside. Her ears drooped down like a curly-eared cat. She was cute and handsome. Not to mention the slender man standing behind her. There was a faint smile on his lips. Against the moonlight, he didn't look old at all. He was as bright as the stars but with a hint of evil. Mr. Andre, long time no see. Old Masterin's eyes lit up. Brother Bo, come in, come in. Little Bojio's eyes started to turn as she listened to the adults' greetings. Where was her little princess? Why didn't she see him? Just as she was thinking about this, Old Masterin spoke. Old Masterin said, "Mo, come over and take a look at your little friend." Mo. This was the second mistake. The smart little Bojio thought that little princesses were usually very shy, so they were given a name like Mo. Hence, she was even more certain that the person she saw outside the window was a girl. Little Bojio was so confident that she confirmed the gender of her little princess. It wasn't a fantasy at all. When she saw the figure walking towards her again, she was even more confident. The other party was wearing small panda slippers, but his pants were tight, sticking to his slender and straight calves. It was very pleasing to the eye. Moreover, he had taken off his jacket. The bright red sweater inside was like the maple leaves she had seen before. However, his skin was like the white snow that had just fallen outside. His eyes were as bright as the stars and his eyelashes were so long that even though they were so far away, the length of his pure black hair could still be seen clearly. He stood there, his black hair like splashed ink. The noble aura that came along with it reappeared in Bojio's eyes. The north wind blew again, responding to the bonfire inside the house and the Christmas tree outside the house. Snowflakes floated over and one of them landed on the boy's shoulder. He tilted his head and blew it gently before looking over politely. She didn't know why, but little Bojio felt that his gaze was too cold. However, this coldness didn't dampen little Bojio's enthusiasm. The fairy tale book said that there were many types of princesses. The one she met today definitely looked cold, but in reality, she was easily shy. She had to control herself later. She couldn't be too frivolous. She couldn't beat William like she did previously. She had to be patient with the little princess and speak in a gentle voice. Since she had brought her piggy bank back, she felt more confident. Anyway, she didn't want to scare him away. She had never felt that there was anyone who looked so good. The one in front of her. She wanted to bring him home as a pet. However, her dad had once said that if she saw something she liked, she had to buy it home. She couldn't take it for free. It was the same on the internet. Hence, little Bojio's first reaction when she saw the little princess was to hug her piggy bank. Chapter 1405. Ever since just now. This little customer had been staring at him. Chin Mo glanced down from the stare and met with a pair of distinct black and white eyes. What made him pause slightly was that those eyes seemed to only have him in them. Under the light, he saw himself in her eyes. Her eyes were quite big. This was Chin Mo's only thought. She didn't look like someone who had spoken so much just now. It seemed like she was pretending to be obedient now. He had never seen anyone pretending to be obedient like this. She looked at him unscrupulously. Chin Mo wanted to take a step forward. The child first greeted his grandfather. "Hello, Grandpa." Then she ran in front of him and pushed the piggy bank in her hands forward. Her tiger tail was still wagging. "Momo, how much are you per kilo?" "I'll buy you." "Buy him?" How much was he per kilo? Chin Mo frowned uncontrollably. He looked at the smiling face in front of him and took a step back. He didn't know why, but he had a premonition that his nightmare was coming. On the other hand, Mr. Bo laughed mischievously. "Master Joe, you're amazing. I was wondering what you were interested in. It turns out that you were interested in your new little friend. Momo is so cute." "It's normal for me to be interested in you," little Bojio said. She turned her head over with a serious expression. Her ears moved. "It's a little shy to talk about it. Momo, can you promise me that I will treat you very, very well?" "Cute." When he heard this adjective, Chin Mo's little face turned slightly cold. Did this fellow misunderstand something? "Cute, ha ha ha." Grandpa laughed loudly. "This is the first time I heard someone say that my Mo is cute." Little Bojio widened her clear eyes. "Didn't anyone say that in the past? That's strange. A little princess like Momo would definitely be liked by many people." "Little princess?" Chin Mo couldn't help but speak. At that time, he was still young and his voice wasn't as threatening as it was now. It even had the childish voice of a 5-year-old. Even though it was cold, it wasn't as imposing as before. Grandpa was stunned for a moment before he laughed even louder. Even though he knew that his grandson was outstanding, this was the first time he was treated like a little girl by a little friend. The man had a rough idea of what his daughter had done. He laughed sinisterly. "It seems like our Master Gio really likes Mo, very." After little Bojio said this word, to show her seriousness, she looked straight at Chin Mo's face. Words for the readers, new book introduction. 3 years ago, the Supreme Alliance disintegrated. The gaming genius, Mo Bay, went into hiding. 3 years later, she disguised herself as a man and returned with her name hidden. She went from being spurned to ascending the altar again, causing the whole nation to be excited. He was handsome and had countless fans. Everyone in the esports circle knew him. When she first joined the team, he told her, "Behave yourself and don't have any improper thoughts." After her identity was exposed, he looked up from the table and stood up slowly. "Do you want to abandon me after getting married in the game? MMH?" The voice beside her ears made her feel guilty. "What else do you think I should do?" Chapter 1406. Chin Mo told himself not to be calculative with someone younger than him. He took a deep breath, lifted his legs, and was about to walk to the dining table. Who knew that the person with the big eyes would suddenly pounce on him? Before Chin Mo could react, he was pushed to the ground by her. Her little tiger claws could be seen. She scratched her head in embarrassment. I'm sorry, Momo, I didn't expect you to be so weak. I'll control my strength next time and won't be so fierce. Who told you about controlling your strength and being weak? Him. This time, Chin Mo didn't even want to breathe. But this person was like a little heater, making him want to pull her collar and throw her out. But she was too young. Her eyes were so big that it was annoying. Get up. His tone was cold. Bojo tilted her head, her tiger tail wagging. Okay. She was very obedient. This made old Master laugh even more heartily. But he couldn't be too enthusiastic. His grandson couldn't stand it. Old Master pulled the little tiger to the side. Come, Jo, sit down and eat something. With the beauty in front of her, Bojo had forgotten that she and her father were here for a free meal. But after old Master An's words, she remembered the purpose of their visit. She wagged her tiger tail and sat down with old Master An. Her father had once said that Chinese people got to know each other at the dining table. After the meal, Momo wouldn't be as shy as she was now. Chin Mo saw her round eyes staring at him. He tidied his clothes and sat down in front of the dining table according to basic etiquette. He thought that after the meal, he wouldn't have to see this little tiger that affected his emotions. But the moment he sat down, the little tiger used her two small hands to move the chair towards him. Then she sat back down. Let's be closer, we can have a private conversation. Chin Mo's side profile was cold. He was naturally arrogant, like a little prince. He didn't want to speak. Bojo tilted her head. Momo, did I tell you that you're very pretty? You're the first. Every word you say makes me want to throw you out. Bojo's eyes lit up. I have good taste. Chin Mo smirked. He had changed his mind. This little tiger really needed a beating. Yes, you have good taste. Chin Mo couldn't even tell if it was a man or a woman. He held the knife in his hand, and when he cut the steak, he used his strength subtly. On the surface, he looked noble and polite. Bojo didn't realize what she was thinking and continued to drink the water happily. Mr. Bo, who saw everything, only felt that it was interesting. He didn't intend to expose her. Instead, he picked up the wine glass in his hand and shook it twice. His movements were casual and elegant, making him look like a character that only appeared in movies. He had only taken one bite of the steak. Then, the phone beside him rang. It was a nursery rhyme. Every time this nursery rhyme was heard, Mr. Bo would be busy. This time was no exception. But he wasn't in a hurry. After taking a look, he smiled and said to old Master An, I have something urgent to attend to. I might need to trouble you to take care of my Lord Jo. Old Master An smiled faintly. Don't mention it. Go and do what you need to do. Jo can get to know Mo better here. Thank you. The man stood up and wore his trench coat. He freed one hand and caressed Bojo's head. His back view as he walked out was completely different from when he came. At this moment, he seemed to be able to blend perfectly into the night. Even his eyes had turned from lazy to cold like the wind. Not to mention the evil aura that surged out when he lowered his eyes. Bojo watched him leave and then retracted her gaze. Unexpectedly, she was a little listless. This wasn't within Chin Mo's expectations. He realized that he didn't like the way the little tiger drooped her ears. Old Master An noticed it too. He smiled and said, Jo, don't be restrained. After dinner, Mo will bring you upstairs to play. Can I? The little tiger perked up again. A pair of bright eyes turned to look at Chin Mo. Chin Mo paused and replied faintly, MMH. He was troubled because if he didn't agree, the little tiger would cry in front of him. Forget it. If that was the case, he might as well agree. Momo, you're such a good person. Bojo reached out and wanted to hug him. Chin Mo frowned. His little face was cold. You better keep your tiger claws. Don't force me to change my mind. Bojo looked at her hand and then at the little princess sitting beside her. She suddenly understood. Momo, I know that in China, men and women shouldn't touch each other and can't be too passionate. But don't worry, I'm a girl too. Hee, you're a girl and I'm not. There's no need to add. Chin Mo couldn't be bothered to talk to the little tiger anymore. He just wanted to finish his steak and go upstairs to read. At this point, the little tiger sitting beside him seemed to know her place. She didn't give him any more trouble. She sat at the side seriously and didn't need anyone to cut the steak for her. Even though it was a little difficult to cut the steak with her clothes on, she didn't say anything. The more Chin Mo looked at her, the more annoyed he felt. He reached out and took her plate. He moved the knife and fork. At such a young age, she already had good dining etiquette. Bojo paused. When she looked at the little princess who was cutting the steak for her, the corners of her lips couldn't help but lift. The little princess looked good even when he was cutting the steak. He wasn't as rough as her at all. Chin Mo moved his fingers. His voice was a little cold. Don't look at me. Oh. Bojo didn't look at him at first. But after a while, she couldn't help but turn her head. Momo, if I save more money, can you sell yourself to me? Chin Mo placed his knife and fork down. He opened his eyes and glanced at her. You better not ask me this question in the future. Is it because I don't have enough money? Bojo hugged the piggy bank and shook it. Chin Mo felt that it was childish to argue with an idiot. He pushed the tray in his hand forward and replied calmly, MMH, he didn't know that his perfunctory nonchalance had become something that the other party cared about. Then I'll save more money. When Bojo became serious, she didn't forget to scratch herself with her claws. Chin Mo glanced at her face. Being a germaphobe, he couldn't help it. He reached out and pushed the hair beside her ear to the side so that he could clean his eyes. He told himself that today was the only day. Once today was over. Chapter 1407. Bojo didn't know what the little princess she liked was thinking. But he was even willing to cut the steak for her. Her little princess should have already accepted her. This was a good thing for Bojo. In the past, too many people were frightened by her rudeness. The little princess was good, she didn't care about this at all. Actually, Bojo probably couldn't understand what Chin Mo was concerned about. The steak was delicious. It was much better than instant noodles. Bojo wore a small scarf as she ate. She had a carefree elegance that other children didn't have. Even though it was difficult to cut the steak, she still had manners when it came to the dining table. Especially when it came to waiting for the elders. It was the same as Chin Mo. Both of them waited for Old Master to eat first before they started eating. When they put down the knife and fork, the elders would put it down first. Because of this, Grandpa liked the little tiger in front of him very much. Moreover, the way she ate, her cheeks were puffed up, giving him a sense of accomplishment when he fed her. She was a completely different type from his grandson. Chin Mo watched from the side as the person ate until her stomach was full. He calmly drank a mouthful of water. She was indeed here to freeload. This trip wasn't in vain. Bojo didn't know that the little princess had heard the conversation between her and her father. When she saw that he was full, she put down her knife and fork, hugged her little piggy bank, and followed. The tiger's tail was still wagging. Old Master watched this scene and felt gratified. His daughter was in the career stage and his son-in-law was in the military. It was indeed beneficial for his grandson to follow him out. But at the same time, he was always worried that his childhood would be incomplete. Now, it seemed like there was a little tiger accompanying him in a foreign country. Perhaps, it would more or less ease his mind. Even though his grandson had a look of resistance on his face. But resisting was better than not saying anything at all. But that little tiger was interesting. Why did she treat his grandson as a girl? Old Master laughed again. He was probably too happy. Even when he went to the study for a video conference, he asked the butler to open a bottle of red wine. On the other side, little Bojio was walking up the stairs. She took the opportunity to observe the surrounding terrain and instantly felt elated. Momo, our windows are facing each other. My room is opposite you. Chin-mo glanced at her and said, don't touch anything. You can eat the snacks on the table but don't disturb my reading. Under normal circumstances. According to the other party's personality. He was certain that he would not be able to meet these requirements. When he opened a book and read for half an hour, he was about to pour himself a glass of water. That person was still hugging his little piggy bank and sitting there quietly. His eyes were big, and he didn't eat the snacks on the table. After drinking the water, Chin-mo was just about to start reading when a small heater came over to him. His fingers paused as he flipped through the book. He narrowed his eyes and turned his head to see the little tiger's sleepy expression. She probably realized that she had bumped into someone. Bojio suddenly woke up and shook her head. Momo, I'm a little tired. I'll go home and sleep first. I'll come and play with you tomorrow. As he spoke, he jumped off the chair. Even his steps were a little shaky. Chin-mo glanced at the lights next door that hadn't been turned on. Then he looked at the back view of the little tiger in front of him. He frowned and then said, Mr. Bo isn't back yet. MMH? Bojio didn't understand what he meant. Chin-mo picked up the book in his hands. When the lights are turned on, I'll get the butler to send you back. There's a small sofa over there. Go and lie down for a while. Okay. Compared to going home to sleep, Bojio was more willing to stay where the little princess was. She was afraid that she would disturb the little princess's reading. But it was her nature. Before she fell asleep, she wanted to talk. Momo, what are you reading? Bojio moved her head over. Chin-mo replied, Little Prince. After that, he didn't speak again. He left her on the sofa because she was too young. He didn't have any intention of befriending her. Bojio sensed his coldness as well. Her tail swayed and she started to doze off again. When Chin-mo noticed her head leaning over for the second time, he frowned. He knew that with this little tiger around, he wouldn't be able to read at all. But at this moment, Grandpa pushed the door open and walked in. When he saw this scene, he was stunned. After all, his grandson had never been so close to any child before. Then he laughed softly. Joe, it's too late. Can you stay here tonight? Bojio perked up when she heard this. Okay. After a night's sleep, the little princess would get closer to her. Unlike now, when he was always cold and indifferent and a little prickly. Bojio lowered her head and looked at her little tiger's paws. Her excited expression was a stark contrast to the cold Chin-mo sitting beside her. Chin-mo didn't know what his grandfather was thinking. His grandfather should know that he didn't like to keep other children at home. But when he turned his head, the lights outside weren't turned on yet. The smell of milk on a certain little tiger was very strong. This meant that she was really small. Even if she was the same age as him. Girls and boys were also different. She shouldn't be that strong. Chin-mo turned his head. He thought for a moment and resisted the urge to object. Everything was because she was still young. He couldn't let her carry a small piggy bank back. It was snowing outside. There wasn't a single person there. Anyway, it was just one night. Tomorrow, he would tell his grandfather. He didn't need any little friends. I'll get the butler to prepare a small guest room for our adorable Joe, Old Masterin said as he looked towards the door. Bojio shook her head. She was very serious. Don't trouble Grandpa and Momo and I will sleep in the same room. We are both girls and there is a small sofa here. When Chin-mo heard this, he started to frown. That little face of his turned cold. What did she mean by both of them were girls? This idiot, couldn't she see clearly? Old Masterin couldn't help but smile. This was the first time he saw his grandson show so many expressions on the same day. Suddenly, he felt that this wasn't bad. His grandson had never slept in the same room with anyone before. He could give it a try. Okay. Old Master caressed the little tiger's head. Then you can squeeze with Mo. Chin Mo didn't expect his grandfather to say this. He was about to reject. But just then, someone hugged his waist. Then, the little tiger smiled. 2 little tiger teeth were revealed. The mole at the corner of her eyes was at the corner of her eyes. She looked at him with big eyes. Then. Chapter 1408. The little Chin Mo froze. When the side of his face touched the softness, he even forgot to push the little tiger away. His nose was filled with the scent of milk and candy. His eyes slowly widened. He didn't seem to want to accept this scene. But he couldn't stop it. His fingers froze. Old Master froze when he saw his grandson's expression. Then, he couldn't help but laugh. The little tiger was really daring, kissing him as soon as she came up. Speaking of which, this was the first time his grandson was kissed. It didn't count when he was born. But after he could remember, he hadn't been kissed by anyone else. After all, when they were in the courtyard, children of the same age felt that his grandson was too mature. He wouldn't do such an intimate action. After all, his grandson had been a clean freak since he was young. However, when Grandpa saw his grandson's shocked expression, he couldn't help but smile uncontrollably. The little tiger didn't know what she had done. She reached forward with her claws and hooked Chin Mo's ears. Momo, are you shy because I kissed you? Is that why your ears are so red? Don't be shy, we still have to sleep together later. Chin Mo didn't think much of it at first, but when she touched him, he realized that they were too close. He reached out and tugged her tail, his voice cold. Who wants to sleep with you? It was fine if this little tiger didn't know whether it was a man or a woman, but she kissed anyone she saw. Didn't she know what it meant to be reserved? Bo Jio blinked in confusion. Her little face started to sink, even her tiger ears drooped. If you don't welcome me, I'll go back and sleep. I'll look for you tomorrow. At first, Chin Mo didn't say anything. He watched as she hugged the piggy bank. Then, he looked at the falling snow and the dark night. Chin Mo tilted his face. I won't go back on my promise. Since grandfather said you can stay, you can stay. Really? Bo Jio's ears perked up again. She almost shook her tiger tail. You promised to sleep with me. Once again, Chin Mo told himself that everything was because she was still young. You'll sleep on the sofa and I'll sleep on the bed. We have no intention of sleeping together. Chin Mo corrected the little tiger who had only been here for 6 hours and had already messed up his rhythm of life. Don't talk nonsense and stay away from me. Maintain a 1-meter distance. 1 meter? Bo Jio placed the piggy bank down and gestured. She pouted, looking slightly listless. So far? Why? I can't even touch you. Chin Mo smirked. At such a young age, he had already developed his aura. Before asking me why, shouldn't you look at your own behavior first? Behavior? Little Bo Jio didn't understand. After thinking for a long time, she asked shyly, is it because I'm too strong? Chin Mo didn't want to speak. What did this have to do with strength? I know. The fairy tales say that princesses are all made of water. When I hug you in the future, I'll use less strength. After all, you're so small and weak. Who knows, I might hurt you. Little Bo Jio was rather serious when she said this. She even reflected on her actions in annoyance. She didn't know that at this moment, Chin Mo only had one thought in his mind. He wanted to pick her up and throw her out of the window. Princesses are all made of water? Small? Weak? Him? Chin Mo reached out and pinched her claws. He inhaled deeply. You better shut up now. Bo Jio heard this and replied happily, okay. Because of the word good, Chin Mo couldn't even finish his sentence. The mixed-blood handsome face with the aura of an angel turned even darker. He was still cold and dignified, but there was anger. Old Masterin, who had been observing the interaction between the two little people, was really amused. He felt that this trip abroad was probably the right choice. After all, who would have imagined that his grandson would say so many words and make so many expressions in a day? He even suffered because of a little child. He was enduring something all the time, probably because the little tiger was too young. His grandson wouldn't be so calculative when compared to his younger self. But this wasn't entirely right. After all, when he was over there were people younger than him. They had seen him like this before. Perhaps it was because the little tiger in front of him hugged him too passionately. Even though he was watching from the side, he felt that he couldn't push away that kind of hug. It seemed like his grandson had met a little devil. Fortunately, the little devil was very obedient. She hugged her little piggy bank and followed behind his grandson. She didn't say anything when he told her not to. She even passed a glass of water to his grandson. She used her actions to express that she would take good care of him. Don't ask old Masterin why he felt this way. It was because this was the expression the little tiger gave people. Why was it so cute? He really wanted to reach out and rub it. Especially the way she looked at his grandson with her big eyes. If he was his grandson, he would have rubbed it long ago. His grandson was good. He really made the little tiger stay away from him. Then, she turned to look at him. Old Masterin couldn't help but laugh. He knew that his grandson was saying, "Grandfather, when are you going to watch the show?" He held the dragon head walking stick and shook it. "Grandfather has something to do. If you want to eat supper, let the butler cook for you. There is warm milk outside and a lot of snacks." Okay. After all, he hadn't grown up yet. He still had an obedient side. The little Chin Mo took a step forward and said to Old Masterin, "Grandfather, good night." Old Masterin wanted to continue watching, but considering his grandson's intelligence, he decided to let the two little people develop freely. But looking at his grandson, he seemed to only want to tolerate the little tiger for one night. Bojio followed Chin Mo to bid goodnight to Old Masterin. Unlike the other girls who were soft and cute, she was a little fierce. "Momo, I didn't do it on purpose. Actually, it's good that you're short. It's okay for a girl to be short since you're so cute and pretty. But if you really want to grow taller, you can drink more milk. I'll give my cup to you as well." Grandpa nodded. "Momo, you're so cute and pretty. But if you really want to grow taller, you can drink more milk. I'll give my cup to you." "It's fine." Chin Mo didn't control his strength again, snapping his favorite mimosa plant. Bojio lowered her head and looked at her toes, not knowing what to do. Chin Mo inhaled deeply. After taking the glass of milk, he instantly felt a headache. Why did he have to worry about the little tiger when he was treated as a girl? If he was too cold, the little tiger would feel hurt. It was probably because her face was too deceiving. With this thought, Chin Mo finished the milk and reached out to pinch her face. He didn't use much strength because the feeling was out of his expectations. It was tender and smooth like egg pudding. It was too soft and he couldn't bear to touch it. Chin Mo tilted his head and retracted his hand. Forget it, it wasn't enough for one night anyway. Bojio watched as her little princess walked into the bathroom. Before leaving, the little princess touched her face. It must be because she was too likable. Even the little princess couldn't help but feel itchy. With this thought, little Bojio started to plan seriously how to make the little princess like her more. After all, it was too difficult to bring her home. The little princess was too troublesome. And she was easily shy. Bojio tilted her eyes. Her dad had never told her what to do if the other party was too shy. Chin Mo, who was about to wash up, didn't know what the little tiger was thinking. After closing the door, he looked at himself in the mirror. His hands seemed to still feel the touch just now. Also, What was with the milk smell all over his body? It must be because she carried him out. Chin Mo squeezed out the toothpaste. His cold little face had a different expression again. The little tiger was a little bored waiting outside. In addition, she suddenly thought of a good way to quickly improve her relationship with the little princess. She bent down and placed the piggy bank on the sofa. Then, she ran to the drawer and took out a small scarf. In fact, when she saw this, Bojo sighed. The little princess was really clean. He was completely different from her. Her scarves had never been folded so neatly before. She just threw it casually. Because of this, her dad always made her reflect on herself. In the past, little Bojo always felt that her dad was deliberately looking for trouble. After all, that person always lost to her in rock paper scissors. William, who lived next door, was even more casual than her. Now, it seemed that she was too ignorant. Everything in the little princess's house was square and fragrant. There were also many books. Little Bojo compared and looked at herself. She felt that she was full of flaws. But she didn't intend to change. However, she had to pay more attention to her hygiene in the future. If not, the little princess would throw her out like trash. After little Bojo told herself this, she started to struggle with her little tiger pajamas. This set of pajamas was originally bought by her dad. He was in charge of acting cute for her mom. The claws, ears, and tail all needed help when she put on the pajamas. It took a lot of effort to take it off. A normal 5-year-old wouldn't be able to take it off. But we must believe that our little tiger Lord Joe is different. If she couldn't do it manually, she would use the rolling technique. She gritted her teeth and pulled, nimbly and handsomely escaping. She took the little scarf and prepared to give the little princess a surprise in the bathroom. Since they were going to sleep together. Of course, they had to shower together. That way, their intimacy would increase continuously. Bojo felt that she was too smart to think of such an idea. Before she entered, she didn't forget to give herself a thumbs up in the mirror. The little young Master Chin, who had already taken off his clothes, didn't notice the little tiger's thoughts outside the door. He thought that she was starting to doze off again since she didn't make a sound. He sat in the small bathtub that his grandfather had specially made for him. After lying down, he covered his forehead with a towel. His black hair was a little wet, making his red lips and white teeth appear even more prominent. Even his eyes were watery. No wonder little Bojo treated young Master Chin Mo as a girl. This appearance was really enough to put the moon and flowers to shame. This was probably related to Chin Mo's natural noble and immortal aura. But at this moment, he could still see that he was a boy. But he was still brought up since young. Not only did he do everything himself, but he was also very presentable. He reached out to get some shower gel. Just as he was about to apply it on his arms, the door opened with a creak. Little tiger, no, that's not right, he shouldn't call her little tiger anymore. Because that person wasn't wearing her pajamas. She was wearing a little white scarf and walking towards him. Chin Mo suddenly had a very bad feeling. He looked at the little person who shouldn't be here, his little brows furrowing bit by bit. Suddenly, Chin Mo had a very bad feeling. He looked at the little person who shouldn't be here, his little brows furrowing bit by bit. Momo, let's take a bath together. I'll help you wash up. Bojo took off her scarf. She was wearing a pair of tiger underpants, her snow-white body like a ball. She was about to enter the bathtub. Chin Mo's upbringing had taught him that there was a difference between men and women since he could remember. His IQ was twice that of his peers, not to mention his psychological state. Being precocious didn't just mean that he was out of line with his peers, it also meant that he had never been so close to anyone before. Now that someone was about to enter, his entire body froze once again. Don't come in. In a moment of desperation, Chin Mo could only throw out this sentence. Bojo looked at his red ears, a look of realization on her face. She then said considerately, Momo, you're shy again. Didn't I say just now that we're both girls? Even though I'm taller than you and my hair is shorter than yours, I'm really a girl. If you don't believe me, come closer, you can take a closer look. Little, old, tiger. Chin Mo looked at the leg that wasn't retracting. Instead, it was moving closer. He completely regretted his soft-heartedness just now. Bojo didn't realize this and corrected him seriously. Momo, I'm not called Little Tiger, I'm called Bojo. Bo as in Bojo and Jo as in Bojo. It's very handsome. In such a situation, it was hard to remember a person's name. Chin Mo's breath was slightly suppressed. Bo, little Jo, try to come closer. I won't go closer. I'll just sit beside you. As for you, Momo, if you continue to hide, your neck will be submerged and you will drink dirty water. There are too many bubbles in the water and your stomach will hurt. Actually, you don't have to be so reserved. I know you aren't used to it after coming overseas. My dad said that people in our country are very reserved. Actually, I'm the same. Oh. He really couldn't tell how the person in front of him was reserved. Fortunately, there was milk in the tub. Otherwise, she would have seen everything about him. Chin Mo told himself not to be calculative with an idiot. Chapter 1409. Once again, Chin Mo froze. This time, both his hands and legs froze. He had never seen such an expression on his face before. However, the one who had done the deed didn't seem to care. She leaned back and splashed the water in the bathtub on herself. Her fair and tender little face was slightly red from the steam. She looked soft and satisfied. Momo, the water in your bathtub smells so good. Is it because you put milk in it? No wonder you're so white. It's because of the milk bath. Princesses are different. It's comfortable to take a bath like this, right? Chin Mo suppressed the urge to ask her what she meant by being a princess. He just wanted to stay away from her. It was best if they didn't have any more contact. Bojo could see his resistance. She didn't understand. Momo, there has to be a limit to your shyness. I'm already so far away from you. You'll fall if you take another step back. With that, she started to move. Chin Mo opened his mouth. Even though his voice wasn't as threatening as when he grew up, it was still a warning. Don't come over. Bojo raised her hands. Her meaning was clear. She would listen to whatever he said. Don't be so resistant. Chin Mo's current state of mind was obvious. He took a step back. He shouldn't have been soft-hearted towards this little tiger. If he was given another chance, he would definitely throw her out. He wouldn't care if her house was dark or not. Bojo didn't know what the pet she wanted to bring home was thinking. Anyway, she just had to think of a way to increase their intimacy. Bojo tilted her head. She thought about it seriously and smiled sweetly. Momo, let me help you wipe your back. I'm good at it. It's fine, Chin Mo rejected in the next second. This was the first time Bojo met such an unapproachable little kid. Sigh, he was pretty. Bojo told herself. She splashed some water on herself. That wasn't all. In order to make herself look as clean as the little princess, she turned her body and placed some shower gel in her palms. Children of this age wouldn't even bathe themselves very neatly. Bojo was the same. She was slightly clumsy. She wiped her arms and legs as though she had completed a great project. From start to end, Chin Mo could only watch from the side. Furthermore, he was using his peripheral vision. In order to avoid seeing things that they shouldn't see. He had already intentionally shifted his gaze elsewhere. Now, the little tiger had settled down. But he couldn't stay here forever. Chin Mo couldn't get up. Once he did, he would be in an awkward situation. No matter how mature young Master Chin was, he was still a child. In this aspect, he cared a lot. However, there was one thing about young Master Chin, he was raised from a young age. no matter what kind of situation they were in. He was able to maintain his nobility and was not anxious or impatient. It seemed like he could only wait for this stupid little tiger to finish bathing before he could get up and go out. This was the only solution he could think of. Otherwise, he couldn't just stand up and let everyone see his naked body. However, he was really an idiot. At this point, she couldn't even tell if he was a man or a woman. He only knew how to play with water. Chapter 14:10. Momo, I'm done. You should be done too, right? Little Bojio twisted the scarf in her hand. Do you want me to wipe your hair before we head out together? Chin Mo took a deep breath. He knew that she wouldn't be content with her actions. No need. You can leave first. Bojio glanced over at his face, which was already covered in a thin layer of sweat due to the heat. At this moment, Chin Mo was extremely good-looking. Her thin lips were like flower petals. Her facial features were as delicate as a doll's. Her black hair was also wet from the water and stuck softly to the back of her ears. Bojio's heart itched. He really wanted to hug her. No, he had to restrain himself. It would be bad if he scared the little princess. However, the little princess did not seem to be in the right state. He looked as if he was about to faint from the heat. Bojio was smart. Once she realized this, she took a huge step forward. Chin Mo also noticed that he had stayed in the bathtub for too long. His breathing was unstable, but he wasn't so weak that he would faint. But Bojio didn't think so. Her heart ached for her pet. Momo, are you out of breath now? The last time I went to the snow mountain with my dad to soak in the hot spring, I was also like this. Don't be afraid, I'll carry you out now. Carry him out? Hug. How could Chin Mo agree? When Bojio saw the little princess's expression, she knew that he was going to be shy again. This time, he didn't even give her a chance to reject. With a ferocious movement, he directly picked up the seemingly weak young Master Chin from the bathtub. Whoosh! Water splashed everywhere. At that moment, Chin Mo's eyes widened. He had really underestimated the little tiger's ability to cause trouble. Bojio wanted to show off her strength as a boyfriend. After all, in order to gain the little princess's trust, she had to straighten her back and carry him out. However, the moment she picked Momo up, Momo's expression changed. She seemed to have seen something she shouldn't have. That looks like... Bojio was in a daze. She looked at the person in her arms, then at his face, and then back at herself. He suddenly understood something. Her little brain suddenly had an epiphany. There was another splash of water. Bojio released him. The two people returned to the bathtub. Chin Mo's face was full of water. Bojio was the same. However, the latter was rather guilty. He looked around with his round tiger eyes. Momo, do you believe me? This is all a misunderstanding. From the beginning to the end, it was all a misunderstanding. Chin Mo didn't want to talk at all. His little face was so cold that he looked like a little prince. Bojio raised her right hand, lying through her teeth. I didn't see anything. Chin Mo smirked. Didn't I see your hand slip? This was not easy to explain. Even if the 5-year-old little Bojio was full of tricks, she couldn't bring herself to play tricks on him after seeing him naked. However, who would have thought that such a beautiful little princess would be a man? How could it be a man? Bojio felt indignant. His small body moved towards the other side. He sensed her intentions. Chin Mo narrowed his eyes and warned, Little Bojio. I just wanted to confirm. Little Bojio touched the back of her head, looking rather embarrassed. You still want to confirm such things? You're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.